Tatum. Thank you, man, for your time. You're doing a lot of things.
Oh, I appreciate you having me on, and I'm trying to do my best to do the best I can with all the stuff that God has blessed me with. So I'm trying my best.
Yeah, and before we get into everything, I want to talk about your book, "Beating Black and Blue: Being a Black Cop in America Under Siege." I mean, if there's not a better time than now to write that book and discuss it, when would there be? What inspired you to write that book, and knowing you're going to get kickback from it? That's some courage right there.
Yeah, I'd say, when I was a police officer, maybe in my third year as a police officer, I had this vision in my mind that I wanted to write two books. And one of the books that I wanted to write was Being Black and Blue. And I just had this concept of, because I had gotten beat up growing up in the inner city, growing up, where being a police officer wasn't something that was believed on in my community. So when I became a cop, I was kind of getting beat up for it. Like, hey man, you working for the white man, you're a traitor to your race. And so I was getting beat up in that direction. And then also when I was a cop, people just had some people, not all, had this negative perception of just police officers in general wearing a uniform. So I felt like, man, I was getting beat up for being black wearing a uniform and wearing a uniform as a police officer in general. And so I thought of this concept to write the book that I'm getting beaten black and blue. And I wanted to just express what it was like being a police officer, what it was like being a black police officer, what it's like, I guess the true and false of how police patrol and the officer involved shootings. And I wanted to just get a groundwork of explaining that to the public so people can have a better perspective of law enforcement.
And give us some examples, not all of it because we want everybody to get the book. Some examples of maybe some misconceptions because you put it on the TV and you watch all this trash, and that's not reality.
1,000%. I mean, it's unfortunate that it can't be reality because these things are very simple. There are police interactions that are unjustified, right? Excessive force, illegally shooting and killing people. Walter Scott was one of them in South Carolina, where he got into an altercation with the police officer. He goes to run. The police officer shoots him in the back. And then when he thinks nobody's watching, he go and plant the taser on him and try to stage a use of force situation. That's completely unacceptable. And then Laquan McDonald was one that I mentioned in my book where one cop shot the guy 12 times. He died before he hit the ground. He was the only cop to pull the trigger. He was wrong. But then there's other situations that are nowhere near the same caliber as Laquan McDonald, Walter Scott. And that situation of Rashard Brooks, situation of Breonna Taylor. I mean, some of these other situations have nothing to do with racism, have nothing to do with police misconduct. What it comes down to is that the misinterpretation of what police officers can and cannot do, what they actually did at the scene, and then the fact that people may not like watching a video or seeing something where a person is shot to death by law enforcement. So I kind of draw the contrast between these are illegal shootings and here is why. These are justified uses of force, which result in somebody's death, unfortunately, but this is why it's justified according to the law.
And that's why I thought your book was so good because you explained in depth those situations and how they really went down, basically. Not the 2-minute clip that you see and boom, boom, boom. And then, what I can't stand is whenever you put on the news and a shooting happens, oh, the police did this, the police did that. Well, how about that African-American officer that went and saved 10 white people? Or how about that white officer that went and saved, 20 African-American people? You never see that. You only see the negative.
Because it's not juicy enough, right? It's not going to sell. People love chaos. People love fear. I mean, maybe subconsciously, but they are attracted to it. So what the news media does is they paint the picture that makes you most outraged, that makes you most upset or make you most fearful. And if they can say, hey, there's this, given the history of our country, they can ride on that and say, hey, there's this epidemic epidemic of white police officers murdering black people for no reason. And you look at it and you say, you know how crazy that sounds? But then that entices people to watch these news networks and then they can sell you advertisement. But that's not the true story. That's not what's really going on. And they love to get a snapshot of a picture of an incident, and they have the whole script, mind you. They just cut it down like this to show it to you to get people outraged. And it's not helpful because there are scenarios where we could learn from it on both sides. We could say, okay, police need more training in this area so that we can prevent these things from happening. Also, the public. This is how you behave yourself when you get pulled over by a police officer. If you disagree with what the cop is doing, fighting him is not the right solution. It's not going to end well. So if the media really cared about presenting truth, we could find common ground on both sides, and we could become better as a nation.
And I hate to say this, but it's almost like they're creating racism for political interest.
I 1,000%. You couldn't be more right. I don't believe that in America today we deal with a tremendous amount of racism. There's still people out here, obviously, that are racist, sexist. People have their own proclivities, but generally speaking, our country is not a racist nation. You go around the world and then you come back and tell me that America is racist. I have never experienced true racism. In 2 situations, I had a person call me the N-word, but I don't know if they were racist or they were calling me the N-word because they were upset. They wanted to provoke me to get into a confrontation with them. And both of those happened while I was a police officer. But, but the thing is that a politician says, well, how do I get an advantage over this politician? If I can just frame it because I want the Black community, or I want the Latino community, or I want the LGBTQ community, because I guess they don't care about the white community. But if I want the Black community, I need to make Black people feel like I'm a better candidate than that person. Now, I can't run on policy because my policies are not that good. But I can't say that man is a racist and he hates your people, so you need to vote for me. And they will do that at all costs. They will create scenarios. They will lie about scenarios, just like Jussie Smollett. Yeah. They would come up with these fake hate crimes and push a narrative in order to act like they have solutions for you. And I think it's very destructive to America.
And it's so bad when people are coming together. We're all coming together. We all work together. And then you do that. And then you get looked at differently either way. Now, when you came out with the book, especially, how did there's new letters every day, like the LGBTQ, I don't know how many letters they got now. It's just the truth. How did all of that, how hard did they come after you, and how did you handle it so positively?
Well, I get backlash, and that's going to be to the end of time. There's always going to be somebody that don't like something that I say, maybe because they're projecting, meaning that they got hit. They know that it's true and they don't want to accept it, so they get upset with me. Some people may not understand yet what I'm talking about. I was that person at one point. And so I always get backlash, and it's not a great amount, but there's probably 20% of people or less that just don't like what I have to say. So when I released the book, Beating Black and Blue, of course, people from all aspects of life, you got the pro-Black folks that's like, oh, you're Uncle Tom Coon sellout, you writing a book about police. And then you have the people who are in the LGBTQ community, because I talk about God and conservatism and kind of how I was raised. And I talk about fathers being in the home. And because I still believe that there's 2 genders and everybody else can make up whatever they want. But biologically speaking, there's 2 genders, and fathers are incredibly important in the home. And people, of course, they have negative things to say, but at the end of the day, I can go to sleep knowing that I told the truth. I can go to sleep knowing that the things that I say are backed by research and facts. And therefore, when people get upset, I know that it's just a matter of time. If they're really interested in the truth, that they'll come along.
And another thing, when I was growing up and younger, if I got pulled over, whether black, purple, orange, or blue, if it wasn't anything crazy, they would take you home to your parents. Go home. They're not going to go and try to give you 5 or 10 years or throw you in jail and ruin your life. Nowadays, it's the officer doesn't know what to do. Do I arrest them? Do I protect myself? Do I do this? And I think maybe it goes back to the parenting, because is that where it begins, or is it within the force? Like, not the officer, but the department or the uppers. Where did it all go crazy?
Well, I'll say it starts with the parents, but I think there's blame on both sides to a certain degree. It starts with the parents. Parents are not raising their children to respect authority. In these households where there's no father, they see no authority, and then therefore they have conflict with everybody that bucks against their ideology of that they can just do whatever they want to do. So especially when a police officer says, put your hands behind your back or get out of the car, they don't listen to their mama. They don't listen to their daddy either, or they don't have a dad. So what make you think they're going to listen to a stranger that's giving them commands that they don't want to obey? And so, that concept of raising your children the right way, raising your children to respect authority, and educating them on the exposure and experience that they may have encountering police officers, and teach them how to make a positive interaction out of that situation. Also in law enforcement, in a lot of it, I blame the city and the city council because they cut funding from law enforcement. They want to have you study out this woke stuff, but they're not providing police officers the opportunity to community police, which means that certain police officers should stay in a community for a period of time so they can build relationships. And then therefore, grandma will feel comfortable telling the police officer, hey man, this guy's on the corner selling drugs, or this is the guy over here that committed that murder. Word on the street is this. But when you don't have community policing, which draws the community in more of a trusting relationship with cops, and cops more of a trusting relationship with people in the community, you start to see a breakdown in communication, a breakdown in trust, and then people become skeptical. And then you add the media and you add politicians on top of it. Now people are really distancing themselves from law enforcement, and you're never going to accomplish anything that way.
I almost fell off the chair. I almost fell off my couch when they said defunding the police. Yeah. You want to? All these people want to defund them. Yeah. Well, when your house is broken into, who are you going to call? What should happen is when they call the police up, you didn't fund us. Hang up. I mean, that is the most insane thing in the planet. And then they base it on what? 10 scenarios a year that didn't go well, that they broadcast everywhere. Well, what about the other 10 million that you're defunding them? You're paying them shit. Let's just be honest. You're paying them shit to go risk their life every day, and you're going to defund them, but you're going to spend $2 trillion on God knows what. You, as a former police officer, when you heard the word defund the police, I mean, what went through your head?
Armageddon. That's what went through my head. I said, well, because let me just explain this. When you defund the police, there's defunding and a fiscal spending cycle, right? So today you say, I'm going to defund the police, but it's a fiscal year finance. So it may not occur for another year or another, depending on when they begin to fund police throughout the quarters. So it may not happen for another year. But when you say that, the morale on the police department goes to zero. People don't want to be doing that when they know the city is not supporting them. And then if you do anything race related, you could be fired, prosecuted, lose everything you have. So then the morale starts to tank. And when the morale starts to tank, proactive policing starts to tank. Community policing starts to tank. And therefore, officers are out there saying, you know what, you guys don't care nothing about us. I'm leaving my family at home while I'm out here risking my life for this city, and y'all don't even care. So you know what? I'm not going to catch that guy on the corner that I know is terrorizing the community, selling dope to everybody, creating zombies in the community. I'm going to let him just sell drugs right there. I also know that person probably has information for me to solve other crimes. But hey, I don't want to get into a foot chase with him and it goes south and then I get fired and this guy is terrorizing the community. So I'm not going to engage. I'm only going to answer calls for service. And then therefore the people who are prowling out in the middle of the night, 12 o'clock, ready to ambush people and break into your house and steal your car and steal your Cadillac converter, we're never going to catch those people because cops are standing off. That's not good for the community. That's not good for law enforcement. And to defund the police also, when they actually defund, when they actually withdraw money or reallocate funds somewhere else, then how are you going to pay these officers adequate salaries? They want the top tier people, but they want to pay them down here. Good people that want to make a livable wage are not going to risk their life to do it. So your candidates are going to drop. You're not going to have quality police officers. Then they can't pay for training. So police officers get in the field and they don't know how to deal with half of these situations because they may be in a department where they're not exposed to it often. But they don't have adequate training. So they freeze, they make mistakes, they do things wrong, they're inaccurate, they're not investigating properly, and then everything just crumbles. So defunding the police was one of the worst statements and ideas that I've ever heard related to police in the community.
And then you end up hiring just every Tom, Dick, and Harry just to fill the uniform that like you said, have no training. And we had a few people when a friend of ours, Ben, he was trying to go to the major leagues. He didn't make it. He wanted to be a cop. And when he, like you said, when he just heard the word defund, that was his dream, was to be MLB or a cop. And when he heard defund, he's like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford anything with the economy bad and everything else. It was his dream, so he still went through it. But that's another thing with people that want to be officers. And then my engineer and I are from Philly. And when I lived there, North Philly was bad, but not terrible. The last time I went to North Philly, man.
Temple cop just got shot and killed last week.
Man, a couple of my friends are cops in North Philly, and they're African-American. You know, we hang out, we go to Jim's Steaks, and I go, what happened in North Philly? He goes, I'm not going in there. He goes, I'm not going in there, no way. You know, no funding. Like you said, he goes, I got 2 kids. His exact words were, I got 2 kids at home, and they're not paying me, and they cut my pension down less than what it is. I'm not going in there.
But I also think that they should add more to the budget, and people think, well, they're going to buy guns and tanks and all this type of stuff. No. When I grew up, they had, events where the cops would come to at the school, and pizza party and block party and all this type of stuff. So that's budget. That's money. Take that money, invest it in the community, have the police officers out there in the community interacting with the youth at a young age, because now they look and they go, oh, he's not a bad guy. That cop's not bad. And now you switch that whole mentality at a young age that cops aren't bad people. They're here to protect us. Now, there's a bad cop here and there, of course. There's a bad, mechanic. There's a bad everything. But if they invest in the community policing, like he was saying, I think it'll solve the issues that we have.
I agree 1,000%. I mean, you need more police officers out there so you can adequately do community policing. Because when I was a cop, we were so short-staffed that we wanted to. We just couldn't, because there's calls for service all day long. I mean, when I would come into work at the midnight shift and it was 21 to 07, which is like 9 o'clock at night to 7 in the morning, it was 30 calls holding on our list. 30 calls. That means 30 different people have called 911 and they haven't gotten a police officer there. And some people have been waiting 10 hours, 5 hours, 3 hours, 6 hours. And we can't community police. We can't go talk to the public. We can't even be proactive. We have to start knocking those calls off. And then somebody gets shot. Somebody gets killed in a vehicle accident. And now those people are now waiting for 12 hours. So you can't have an adequate police force if you don't have funding, you don't have enough police officers, because the day shift can spend a lot of times at the school resource officers, just spending time in public, the DARE program. I mean, all of these different things police officers can do during the day, and at the night shift, you have an adequate amount of police officers to handle calls for service, and it builds that relationship. So 100% that comes down to allocation of funds.
And then what happens, Brandon? When you have 39 911 calls, you're trying to do the best you can, and you don't come. The 10 that you couldn't get to, they go, the police don't do anything. They couldn't do nothing for me, because they don't realize that you're short-staffed, you don't have enough people, and then you have more of a stigma on top of what was already there. And it's just a trickle effect, and it's just a disgrace. This episode is brought to you by Manscaped.com. Breaking news, Manscaped now sells beard products. That's right, they are once again revolutionizing men's grooming with brand new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. From a beard trim to a fresh shape, the technology behind Beard Hedger Pro Kit allows you to shave your signature beard look. Now you can finally use Manscaped products to make your drapes match your carpet by going to Manscaped.com and using code MSCS Media for 20% off and free shipping. No one likes a weird beard, so say goodbye to all the stubble trouble with Manscaped's Pro Beard Kit. It all starts with the Beard Hedger. This thing is a monster of fixing faces. First off, this cordless trimmer has a rotary wheel that gives you 20 hair cutting lengths, all with one guard. No more messing around in drawers, this color one, that color one, all with one guard. Plus, it's waterproof, so you can shave in the shower and avoid all that hair in the sink. The Pro Kit doesn't end there, though. First, there's the beard shampoo and conditioner. You need to remember your hair is different. Next, Manscaped's beard oil. Cap it off with beard balm. The Pro Kit also comes with 3 different gifts: a beard brush, comb, and scissors to ensure your beard is ready to impress. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code MSCS Media at Manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at Manscaped.com. Use the code MSCS Media. Manscaped Beard Hedger, 1 stroke, 1 guard, 20 lengths. Link is in the description below. This episode is sponsored by ZBiotics. What is ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic? The ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic is a genetically engineered probiotic you drink before drinking alcohol to avoid that rough next morning and get back to living your life. PhD scientists invented it because they know the real problem is not dehydration. It's a toxic byproduct of alcohol, and ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic is the only product that breaks it down. Just remember to drink responsibly and plenty of rest too. Every time I have Z-Biotics before drinking, I'm amazed at how good I feel the next day. Z-Biotics is a must-have for me because it means I'm still going to make my daily workout even if I have a few drinks the night before. That's important to me. You can get Z-Biotics for 15% off your first order using my code MSCS Media at checkout. I recommend getting the 6-pack. That's what I got. It's a great deal. You have a couple extra to share with friends. Go to zbiotics.com/MSCS Media. That's Z as in zebra, biotics, BIOTICS.com/MSCS Media, or scan the QR code on the screen right now and get 15% off your first order. You will not be sorry. Link is in the description below.
And I'll give you an example, and this is this whole race baiting thing that occurred. It was a black family. They happened to live across the street from college kids. So, of course, and college kids are partying all night. So they called in for a loud call disturbance like 6 hours ago. So, I mean, the kids were going all night. We hadn't showed up for 6 or 7 hours. And when I first got on shift, that was the first call for service that I took. When we first got there, the black guy's arguing with my supervisor saying, y'all didn't show up because I'm black, because I'm a black man and y'all don't want to show up to the white people, right? And then the kid across the street that was called on, he happened to be at the party, majority white, one black kid, and he's saying the white people called on the party because I'm black. And so you got the black people mad because we didn't show up, and the one black kid at the party think that there's white people that's calling on him. So I have to be the inner city person whisperer. I have to go and talk to the guy. And I said, look, sir, let me just give you an example. Come look at these calls for service. I have 40 calls for service. That's a stabbing, a shooting, rape. I mean, these are all calls. This is why we didn't show up to a loud party for 6 hours, because we have all of these major calls that take priority. Then I had to go across the street and tell the young man, do you know that there were black people that called on you? So instead of making it a race thing, understand the dynamics of law enforcement and policing, and you'll come across with a better perspective.
See that right there should be on prime time, not the bullshit. What you just said. Right?
Yeah. Well.
But you never get it broken down like that. That was great. And where can we get the book? And we'll put it in there when the video comes out.
Yeah, you can go to tatumstore.com. If you go to tatumstore.com, that's where I sell all my merch, and also my book is there. I have signed copy and then the non-signed copy. People can just go there, search it. If you want to go to Tatum Store and just search book or Beating Black and Blue, you'll find it right there.
Awesome. We'll have that in the description, and we'll have it pop up when we're done with this. So also, you're from Texas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wild Wild West.
Well, kind of the Wild Wild West.
Cowboys. Now, what was it like growing up like that? I mean, you got an uncle that went to the NFL, won a Super Bowl. Your dad, an honorable fireman. I mean, you got quite of a thing to live up to.
Well, I think I come from a line of men who do not allow excuses to stop them from being successful. My father grew up in the projects. He grew up poor, but my father still made a decision when he was young. I think it was 18 or 19 when he started the fire department. He said, look, I'm gonna go get a job. I'm gonna work my butt off and I'm gonna be successful. And I remember him telling me this a long time ago. He said when he first started on the fire department, there was some discrimination. And he had made mention that he said, I hope that the people who are discriminating against me understand that one day they'll be working for me. So they may want to watch how they treat me.
My man.
And my father had the concept that I'm not going to let this hold me back. I'm going to work my way to the top. And he did. He retired from Fort Worth as a battalion chief, 30-something years of service. He became the chief in Waco, Texas. He retired again after 3 years or 4 years working there. Now he's the chief in Keller, Texas, where he's going to work that out until he retires. And my daddy's 57 years old, and he's been able to accomplish so much. And my dad never makes an excuse, and he never let us make excuses. I remember when we come home, the teacher say that I had bad citizenship or whatever the case may be, and I was willing to complain. Dad, but no, the teacher did. He said, no. What did you do? I don't feed and take care and put a roof over the head of that teacher. Yep. I'm responsible for you. So you tell me what you did in this situation. And it's always I was wrong, but
Yeah.
the human nature in me wanted to make an excuse. My father was never that person. And that's why I became successful. And that's why my father's successful. And I believe all the people that he has influence over become better people because of his mentality.
That's what I'm talking
That's
about.
it. That we talk about all the time on this podcast. I think it's like a general theme when we talk about it. It's, kids nowadays aren't raised with respect, aren't raised to, hey, you know what? I fucked up. I was wrong. Okay? Take it like a man and walk the other way and learn from it, grow from it, learn from your mistakes. But it's all about blaming somebody else. It's his fault. Oh, my job sucks. This sucks. Well, you're going to be doing that till the day you die, until you decide that you're going to take advantage and work hard and make something out of yourself. And I just wish more kids would learn that, because we're in a terrible spot if it doesn't change.
Yeah, and my grandfather, I didn't get the height, but he was huge. And if I didn't catch 100 footballs in the snow with a wife beater on, now you probably get arrested for it. He would not let me go play video games if I didn't hit 100 foul shots. But there was an achievement at the end. Now, Brent, now if you just show up for practice, you get a trophy. All this woke thing. And I mean, do they not realize that who's going to be the next Elon Musk? Who's going to be the next something? What is the point? If everybody's going to win, why am I going to sit out and practice? Why am I going to study? Why am I going to do this for 90 million hours when the guy who's working for 1 hour and trying to study is going to achieve the same thing? And I think it all plays back into the same, scenario.
It plays back to having a strong father, strong men in society. I think that, people have become soft. Like, people are raising soft kids, and then they raise soft kids, and they raise soft kids. And before you know it, you got men switching roles. They want a woman to take care of them. People don't have that strength and courage and motivation like my father did. Because, and I tell you what, I'll say this, because people a lot of times, they like to act as if adversity is a bad thing. My father grew up in the projects. They grew up poor. His father wasn't there. They left him when he was a young kid and ended up coming back later in life. But that compelled my father to want something out of life, to realize I don't want that for my life. I don't want my children doing that. I have something to look forward to. I have something to go hard on. When I'm working my way up towards the ranks, I'm accomplishing something my family has never done. This is something to look forward to. And I did the same thing, when I went to college, and because my father just graduated high school, but later in his career, because he needed credentials, he had to go back to school to get his bachelor's. He went to get his master's degree. But before that, I had been the first person in my family, immediate family, to go to college and get an education. And so I made it a point to say, I'm going to be the first to graduate and get my degree. I don't care how football work out. I don't care if I play another down. And my father was a huge component of that, because he said, I don't care what they do on the football field. You better get your education. And so I graduated, got my degree, walked across the stage. And I was very proud of that. And because I had a father and I grew up in an environment where you are incentivized through accomplishments. I knew that if I got my education and I got a degree, I would be ahead in life versus if I did not do that. And all of those ideals should be interjected into young men for sure in a time like this. Not pandering, not making you feel good, not feeling like, oh, it's not fair that you have one leg. It's not fair that you have a learning disability. It's not fair. Forget all that stuff. Quit being a coward. Quit teaching these kids to be soft. It don't matter what your situation is. Everybody gets a hand of cards. How you play your cards is how you succeed in life. Some people got a bad deck, but if you can play your bad deck better than the person with a better deck than you, you win. Some people got a good deck and they playing bad cards all day. They squandering their opportunities. So it doesn't matter. God gives everybody a deck of cards, and you make sure that you play them as best as you can, and you'll be the best version of yourself. To be honest, it's really that simple.
Well said. And there was a person we were talking to, and he had some issues, and then we put on what was that guy's name? With this guy could dunk, do 360s, and he only had one arm. Did you see him?
God, I can't remember his name.
I can't remember his name, but he was 6'6", but his arm stopped here,
Oh, I seen him.
And this guy was balling.
It was a black kid.
Yeah.
A tall, skinny black kid, right?
Right. Now, if he can do that, imagine how much, he's probably made fun of in school. You can't make it now, but he had the drive. And look what he did. So if he can do it, anybody can do it.
And Brandon.
Well, yeah, the kid in the NFL.
Oh, yeah?
It was a guy in the NFL. Him and his brother both played in the NFL. He played linebacker in college, and he had like a half of an arm.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't have a hand on the arm.
Griffin.
And he was disabled. He's still playing in the NFL now, I think. So, and then
Shaquille
there's a
Griffin,
kid
right?
that don't have a lower body. I don't know if you guys seen him.
Yeah,
he's
Shaquille
wrestled, he races, he lift weights, and he don't even have a lower body. He's just hips. He just hips to the top of his head, and he has his arms. You can go look him up, man. He does pull-ups. He does workouts. He won bodybuilding contests. I mean, I can't. He won a wrestling contest, and he don't even have legs. So
Good for him.
It's like, bro, people have no excuse.
No excuse.
It's just if there's a will, then there's a way.
Go ahead, bro.
One thing you said, Brandon, was you talk about having the father figure in your life. You need a father and a mother, and I know people's circumstances sometimes, dad passes away, unfortunately, or he's in jail. And, you got some tough moms out there, man, real tough moms raising a family, doing it by themselves. Good thing. But I used to always say, I think a boy especially, maybe not a girl, a boy needs a father because a mother is there to be a mother. And I'm not saying that mom can't be tough because I've seen some tough moms out there that will whoop some ass. But you need that dad figure. And I just feel like, and I just want to see your opinion on this, it feels like masculinity is being punished these days. If you're a man, it's bad to be a man. It's looked at in a negative connotation. But feminism is okay. And I have nothing wrong with being a female and all the things they have, but it just feels like masculinity is punished these days.
I agree with you 1,000%. I think that most of the things that you guys say, I agree with. By and large, I think that they're trying to find a way to divide us. That's the reason why they're coming up with these concepts. They want to pit man against woman. They don't want a woman to have a husband and to feel like that's a viable option. They want the woman to be dependent on the government. They want the government to be your daddy. They want the government to be your God. They don't want people to have strong families, because when we have strong families, we produce strong people that then challenge the government and say, you know what, this ain't right. We're going to take lead. We're going to take charge. Our young men used to do that when 18-year-old boys going and fighting wars to save this country. And nowadays, man, they so wimpish, it's out of control. And I understand that there's women who are caught in situations that they cannot control, right? You marry a guy, you think he's going to be a good guy. He gets drunk and leave the family. That's not your job. I mean, that's not your fault. You do the best that you can. And it's not fair that mama have to be mama and daddy. God made two parents. Because sometimes you got to play the good cop, bad cop. Sometimes you need a little bit of strength and a little bit of love and compassion. You can't have one person that can do all of it. And therefore, if a mom is trying to do everything, she's skimping in certain areas. Kids need full-time love, full-time mom, full-time dad, full-time compassion and sweetheart or whatever. And then full-time somebody, telling you, get up, boy. You're not hurt. You good. People need both of those things. Now, I'll say this. There is an epidemic of the government and feminism pushing women into believing that it is great and that they're powerful if they're a single mom. And I saw this woman, and I don't know her situation because I don't like to judge people without knowing the full context, because I'll feel like an idiot if her husband died. But it's a woman I saw on Instagram, and she's like an Instagram model, very beautiful woman, and she has 4 kids. And she's on a computer typing and saying, they say you can't be an entrepreneur full time and have 4 kids. And I thought of that and I said, sometimes women have gotten to a point of extreme selfishness because you think you're a boss. You think you're an entrepreneur doing it with 4 kids. What do your kids feel? How do they feel about daddy? They miss their daddy. But you're doing fine because you don't want him, but the kids want him. You're doing good working all day, 24 hours a day, and the nanny's watching your kids because you're a boss and you're an entrepreneur. But how does your kids feel about you never being at home and them not being able to see you and you being on Instagram all day? So I think that we live in a society, too, where women have been brainwashed into believing that. I'll give another scenario because I think this is important as well. Feminism tells women you don't need a man. Feminism tell women you're just as equal as a man. Feminism tell women you should be the CEO of that company. They shun women that say, no, I want to take care of my children at home and my husband works. My family dynamic is just that. My wife take care of the baby. She makes sure the home is taken care of so I can go out and work, so I can go out and produce. And my wife is safe. I make sure she's good. My wife don't have to slave over nobody's job. And that's the way I believe that it should be structured. Nobody's watching my kid. My wife is watching our child. We don't need to take our kid to school. If the school acting a fool, my wife will homeschool our kids. And of course I'm there, but I need to be out working because I don't have, things that happen once a month. Let's be honest. Women go through mood swings. That's got to be traumatic to have to deal with that every month and still deal with your employer. I don't have to deal with that. I don't get pregnant. My wife get pregnant, but I don't have to stop. I could be there for her, support her, but I can work hard all 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's something that my wife, and I believe that that's not her assignment. That's not what God has called her to do. And we can still be equal in value, but different in responsibilities. And feminism they hurt women 24 hours a day. I see women that's like, yeah, I've made it. I'm a CEO. I own this company. And they single and they're going to die alone with a little puppy. And then what they don't tell them is that once you accomplish all these things, I believe in most women, not all, it's innate that women want to be mothers. And if you get to the point where you put your career over being a mother, I think a lot of women later in life that deal with this, they feel like they have no purpose. They feel like they've squandered their purpose. And now they're dying as a CEO. And I'm not discrediting women from being a CEO. I believe do what's best for your life, but don't fall in the matrix feeling like you have to be that way, feeling like your only value in society is to compete with a man. I think that society is very wrong about that.
I couldn't agree with you more. And if we go back in time, say, 5,000 years ago, what happened? Woman stayed in the cave. It sounds funny, but stayed in the cave, took care of the kids. Man went and killed the animal and brought it back to eat. Even penguins do that. The mom stays and watches the egg. The penguin goes 10 gazillion miles to go get food and comes back. It's the way it is. And when I was growing up, if my grandfather, my dad wasn't really around, but my grandfather, man, if I had a child and I made the child of my mother work and I wasn't good enough to support the family, he would have knocked my head off, because I believe and he believed, and it was just how I was raised. Man works, man provides and protects, woman nurtures, takes care of the kid and everything else. And sure, if there's a woman that wants to be a CEO, okay, it's just how I was raised, is that my job is to work my ass off, provide and protect, and let mom do what mom does. Like, I just had my first kid. She's 2.5. I never want my fiance to leave the house because she needs her mom, mommy time. I think we would all agree in here. I mean, we were all raised old school, but nowadays it's if the guy works and the woman stays home, there's something wrong with that.
Yeah.
And I can never wrap my head around it. It's weird. And here's the best one for you. This will make you laugh. I had a friend of mine was always complaining about money. And I said, okay, you want to come in and do the board like Rod? He couldn't make it. He said to me, I'm babysitting. I got to cook a crock pot. And I said, you're always complaining about money. Why don't you go get a job? I just couldn't believe that. And it sounds bad, I guess, and I'll get shit for it, but I never heard of that the way I was growing up.
Right. And in my opinion, that's a good thing, because men, like, we're built different. We can work longer hours, like even the hunting and gathering scenario. Like, yeah, you get a 300-pound, I don't know how big bucks are, but let's say you get a 300-pound buck. Ask her, you think your wife going to drag that thing, or you going to drag it?
I thought it was gonna
two
happen.
Women or two men?
My wife's going to slap me in the face for asking her to go carry it. I'm going to get punched if I ask her to go get the damn thing.
My wife comes to me, and I love it when she do this, because, that's my job. My wife come to me and say, hey, baby, can you open this jar? Yeah. Man, it's like, I did my pinky finger, and she can't even get it open. Like, and it's not because, right. I'm like, this is why you married me. Yeah, I got you, baby. I got you. But that's what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. I'm biologically a lot stronger than my wife. And I am to protect. Why would she be protecting when I'm already stronger than she is naturally? You know, and I have a lot more. And, you know, some women may have this instinct, but I think men have a killer instinct. Like I'm willing to die for my family. It don't even cross my mind. I'll kill somebody over my family. I'll put my life on the line for it all. I'll put my life on the line for the country. I put my life on the line when I was a cop. It ain't even a second guess. But I'll tell you this, my wife is growing me in this idea of how much women are nurturers. Let me just tell you this. When my wife first had the baby, she literally, because we had a nursery room, she slept in the room for 9 months. She did not want to not be in the presence of the baby. I'm different. I'm like, I'll put him in the bed, let him cry.
Me and you both.
He'll be fine. Man. My wife is like, he can't cry for 2 seconds.
I just got called.
She's, oh, my
Brandon,
baby.
I just got called, what she call me? Barbaric. I said, let her cry. She's okay. She's fine. Nope. The kid cries. That's it. She's in the other room. All right, I'll see you tomorrow. Me, like you said, hey, diapers changed, they're fed. Okay, she's crying. She'll go back to bed. Mom's, nope. Me, I'm out.
I'm out. I said the other night my son was crying, and me and my wife, we kind of bump heads sometimes because I'm like, baby, he's okay. He's gonna cry. Just give it about 5 minutes and see what he's gonna do. And when she listens to me, he cries a little bit and he go, it's time to go to bed. She go, oh my God, you're traumatizing him. He's gonna be traumatized forever. But see, women and men think very differently. However, imagine this. Most women probably we don't feel the same thing because we didn't carry that baby for 9 months and all that. Yeah. Most women probably feel that way. But corporate America and feminism tells that woman, no, you need to leave that baby and go work on a job. Leave that baby to a babysitter and you go work. You know how horrifying it is? My wife can't be without. My son is 2, just like your baby. My son, he just turned 2 last month. The first time, maybe like 6 months ago, my wife was able to leave our son with our nanny for 20 hours, not 24, 20 hours. You got to think it's been that long and she can't leave him. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I'm learning that, no, that's the way women really feel. Why wouldn't I provide that opportunity for our son to be rocked to sleep every single night, nurtured, loved every single day without obstruction? Why wouldn't I provide that for my wife? And the problem is that society has pushed women towards they can't enjoy their pregnancy. They can't put their feet up and say, okay, I got heartburn. I need to sit down. I need to rest. I need to relax. I don't have to worry about going back to work after I deliver this baby. I can nurture the baby. I can be there. I can be a mom in this process like God has created me to be. And they don't have to be forced to go outside of that. And society is making women, just destroying them, man, by forcing them into this feminism.
Yep. And the best part is now they give men a week off. Some places give men a week or 2 off after they have a kid. What'd he do? What'd he do that he deserves 2 weeks off? My accountant, his assistant accountant got 2 weeks off for having a kid. I said, would he have the kid? He got 2 weeks off paid? He did. I said, Jesus, my goodness. 2 weeks off. But I mean, somebody's got to do something. And you're talking loud, and I agree.
Rub your wife's feet when you. Rub your wife's feet when you get home from work. That's what you do. Or work up early and rub her feet in the morning, and then on the weekend spend all your time with your wife, and don't be, messing around and hanging out with the boys. That's your 2 weeks off for maternity leave. Because I don't take time off. I work hard every day. I work 7 days a week, and because I want to provide a life for my wife and my children, that one day we can just be on the beach somewhere, and I don't have to work every single day. But right now I got to get it. I got to grind. My wife understands that I'm working on a Saturday. I work on a Sunday. We went to dinner last night. A lot of what we did was work. Yeah. Talking about who we hiring, firing, and different things like that. So, can't be, as a man, you can't be afraid to hustle. You can't be afraid to grind. You can't be afraid to sacrifice because you're doing it for the better good. And it's funny because men used to do this back in the day. Who you think was picking the cotton? Who you think was farming the animals? And this is outside of slavery. Who do you think was doing it?
Men.
The people who couldn't afford slaves, even back then. Who you think was doing it? The man had to get out there and bust his knuckles. Yeah. And his kids had to come out there. Them boys, they were out there working in the farm with their daddy. It wasn't no cakewalk.
No.
And if they didn't work, they didn't eat. They died. So
That's exactly right. I remember my dad was around. You better mow that grass. I mean, it was already geared up for me at 5:30 a.m. What? It's Sunday.
They've destroyed the family structure is what they've done. They've destroyed it.
Or you get arrested for it now.
You know what's funny? A guy made a statement online. I don't know who it is, and I've seen many people do it. So I think some profound person said it, and everybody's piggybacking. There's 3 components of why the feminist movement was created. I forget the third one, but I'm gonna try to do my best to remember. The first one was that they gave women or thrusted women into the workforce so that they leave the children at home and the government can now indoctrinate your kids, because women used to raise their own kids. They used to, have, teach them and, give them schoolwork or whatever. They should do it on their own, they homeschool their own kids. But the government saw that we can brainwash and manipulate these kids, make the woman go work, and therefore she can't take care of the kids. We'll take care of the kids. The second one was, if a woman goes out and work, now we can tax 2 people. We tax the husband and wife. Now we're doubling our tax, because we only were taxing 50% of the population because women didn't work. So now we can double our tax of the population. And the third one, I forget what the third one was, but I'm pretty sure it was somewhere profound of the real reason the feminist movement started. Not because it was women liberation. It had nothing to do with that. I'm not saying that that's 100% true, but the theory is jogging my memory and making me feel like, well, maybe that is true, that they didn't care about women's rights. Look at what they're doing with transgender stuff now. They don't really care about women's rights. Jeez. The government saw a strategy to push these women into that. And I think they did the same thing with the civil rights movement, and we can get into that as well, because I believe Black people begin to go down the wrong trajectory after the civil rights movement than before the civil rights movement.
What they're doing with the whole government behind it. You believe that? Can we charge them with the RICO Act or racketeering? Which one would fit better?
Right. I mean, the government is the biggest.
I know.
The government is the biggest criminal enterprise. And I'm not saying all of government, but I'm saying the government is one of the biggest criminal enterprises in the United States of America and abroad. So, I'm not naive enough to believe that the government isn't complicit in some of the most heinous, destructive things that we see in our society today. I think it's orchestrated by our government. That's why our founding fathers believed in minimal government. Let us do us. Y'all stay out of it for the most part, because people become corrupt.
That's it.
I think another thing, kind of on the lines of what we're talking about, the way to fix some of these things is, when you fill paperwork out and it asks you for your ethnicity and it'll say, Hispanic, Caucasian, African American. Well, my kids are half Hispanic, half white, half Caucasian. What do they fill out? I think they should get rid of that on forms. And I think when you apply for a job, it shouldn't be just to fill we need, a Chinese person, we need an African American person, we need a white guy, we need a woman. I think it should be almost like a blind resume where they don't know. You should say candidate A, candidate B. And they should go through what candidate A can offer and candidate B can offer. And then they can meet with them in person and decide, but not look at it and go, well, that's a woman or that's a man and we need this. And it's just not the way it should be.
1,000%. I always thought that on the police department, when they used to have the program for sergeant, to promote the sergeant, and people used to complain. They say, oh man, they're biased against me because I have a certain reputation or I have a certain name. And I remember when I was there, I suggested that we do a concept with just numbers. You have, application 11556 or something, and you just use everybody by a number. And therefore you can objectively look at the resume and say, okay, this person does this, this, and this. I like them. Let's bring them in for the next interview. And I think you're 100% right about applications. Therefore, if your mama named you Latasha Krisha, it doesn't turn people off because they presume that you're a ghetto person that don't know what's going on. Or you have an African name that nobody can pronounce. And they like, I can't even pronounce this person's name. I'm going to go on to the next. Or you have a family name that's, consistent with wealth and success and honor. And then people may be more biased towards hiring you. No, just put a barcode or serial number on the application, because at the end of the day, I don't give a flying flip. I want to know, can you do the job? What's your resume? I've been hiring people lately, and that's what I look at. I'm like, now I do judge people based on how they formulate their resume. I'm like, oh, this person's lazy. They misspelling words, and I'm not even looking at that one because that tells me what kind of business you operate. And people that take their time and do their resume really well, I look at that. I never look at race. I couldn't care less what you are. But I look at your credentials. Oh, what have you accomplished? That's the first thing I look at. I don't even look at their name. I say, okay, where's the last job you worked? How long did that person work? What can you bring to the table? Oh, I like this. Okay, let's give that person a try. And I would argue that's how most businesses are, because if I just say I'm gonna only hire Black people, I'm limiting myself to just a pool of a small amount of people that I could probably be eligible. If I open it up to everybody, then I have a lot more of a pool of successful people to draw from, and I can get the best results. So, anyway, I agree with you 1,000% on that. Get rid of that race stuff. That stuff don't even matter, because we're not even accurate about race anyway. Because I want to look at my ancestry, and we have white people in my bloodline. So, what does that even mean? My children are biracial, half white, half Black, both of my sons. So what do they call them on a resume? What are they?
Yeah.
They want them to be Black in America, but in reality, they're half and half. Maybe they put white on there. I just think that we're all mixed up from somewhere. That's the reason why we're different colors, because we mixed. Yeah. We come from different backgrounds. We come from different genealogies. But we all, let me say we come from different. I think we merged into different stuff. I think we all came from the same humans. And then over time, we're in this area, and we begin to evolve, right? In Africa, the nostrils need to be bigger to cool the brain. Yeah. So Black people have bigger nostrils. If you live in a cold climate, you don't need as much melanin, and you probably grow longer hair to keep you cold, keep you warm. You need narrow nostrils so you don't have that much cold air going into your brain. I mean, all of those things were human beings started at one spot, and we evolved in order to deal with the climate that we live in. We can even see a slight evolution when you go out in the sun. I know you guys, you live in a beautiful sunny state. When you out and outside, you get tanned. It's your body's response to sun. And so it's like we all actually are the same people. We just so happen to evolve in different areas in the world. We are no different. We are no different. We bleed the same blood. We all have one heart, two lungs, generally speaking. And it's just the government. It's the people want to divide us. We're not divided. And I think that our differences are beautiful. Our differences are great. I love living in America, and I've never been anywhere else, so I can't say anywhere else, but I love living in America because we're diverse. We just went and had Mediterranean food the other day. Like, I love Chinese food. I like sushi. I like fried chicken. I like Mexican food. The burrito place is on fire. They got the breakfast burritos they can send to you. I like Indian food. I love that all of our experiences and culture come together in America. That's beautiful. That's not something to be divisive over.
I'm full-blown Italian. And, Italian, we have African-American in us. We really do. If you go to Sicily, they'll tell you that. And that's why we don't, I never get burned. You could put me in a right next to the sun and I wouldn't get burned. And then you go over there and you see guys that have blonde hair and blue eyes. This episode is brought to you by Let's Get Checked. Are you the man your father was? Recent studies have shown that men's testosterone levels have dropped substantially since the 1980s at about an average of 1% per year. Think about how old your father was when he was born. For example, if he was 30, your testosterone levels could be 30% lower than his. Low testosterone levels can have all type of health effects on men. It can affect your mood, sex drive, memory, muscle mass loss, you name it. And yes, low testosterone is more common the older you get, but it can affect men at any age. So let's talk about today's sponsor, Let's Get Checked. You can order a testing kit that will be delivered to you in a discreet packaging with next-day delivery. Once your sample arrives in the laboratory, confidential results will be available from your secure online account within 2 to 5 days. So, if you want to test your hormone levels without having to leave your home, visit trylgc.com/MSCS Media and get 25% off your test using the code MSCS Media. The link is in the description at the top. It's really amazing. So this race shit is just for the birds.
Yeah. Waste of time. It's a political leverage point. They can't find differences because if we all like, just like it's my Christian faith is where I get this from. I'm like, we all come from God. And when I go to church, nobody cares what color a person is. Nobody cares what, generally speaking, some people are very judgmental, but most people don't care where you come from. Maybe you don't have nice clothes. Maybe you're homeless. Maybe you a convicted felon. I mean, man, nobody cares, man. We all trying to go and get a relationship with God. At the end of the day, we all broken to some degree. If people would understand that, outside of this Instagram culture where people all made up and we all messed up. Yeah. Everybody got stuff that they'll never tell anybody that they did. They were involved in. Everybody. That go to the grave, man. Like I did this. I'll never tell anybody. And everybody is struggling with different hurt and pain and insecurities. Some insecurities come out in excessive spending, right? Somebody insecure, but they buy a lot of nice clothes. So they look good because they're insecure about the way they look or whatever. And I'm not saying that everybody that buy nice clothes is insecure, but I'm saying some people express their insecurity in that way. Some people express their insecurity in being promiscuous, right? I mean, they don't feel comfortable in themselves. Nobody really likes them. But if they have sex with a lot of people, they feel loved. They feel connected to people. They feel wanted. So we all are a broken mess. Mm-hmm. And I think we all need God, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But if we can get to that point as a nation and stop worrying about colors and the poor white man is the same as the poor black man. It's some different cultural dynamics depending on where you live. But hey, I used to be a cop in the poor white neighborhood. Them kids didn't have no daddy either. People shooting each other in the trailer park. Yeah. It's like
they just got AKs.
It's all the same. What you say?
I said in the trailer park they just got shotguns and AKs.
Right.
Yeah. Now when you were when you were in college and then you went into the draft and it didn't go, how did you handle it? And I think this is great for the youth or anyone. When you didn't get drafted, how did you mentally handle that? Your uncle won a Super Bowl with the Raiders and all that. How did you handle that and bounce back? And I could just see you're glowing. I know it was a while ago, but just how did you handle that diversity? And then maybe people watching can rewind this whenever something maybe goes wrong and doesn't go the way that they hoped and prayed,
Well, I putting God first was the biggest thing for me. I got saved in college. I believed in Jesus, started going to church, got baptized, filled with God's Spirit. All of those things that you hear about in the scripture, that happened to me. And that changed my perspective. Now, I was hurt when I didn't get drafted. You got to think, coming out of high school, I was an All-American football player. I was the top player in the nation.
He was
top 78 in the entire nation. I had scholarships everywhere. I could have went anywhere to play football, and I just knew I was going to go to the league. I played in high school in our All-Star game. I played with Jonathan Stewart, who played running back. I played with I could go down a list of all these people. Deshaun Jackson. He may still be playing in NFL. I played with so many other people. Who?
We're big football fans over here. We're from Philly, so he said go Birds.
Go Eagles. Yeah. But I played with Adamakin Sue. I played with Michael Orr, who they made the documentary after. All of us, man, we all played in that game. And then we get, everybody goes to college and everybody start going to NFL. It's like a guaranteed thing. You're going to play in the NFL. But, man, college didn't go well for me. And that's kind of how I found God, was in college when things weren't going well. But then after that, I used to always pray, God, vindicate me, help me, to overcome these things. And it never worked out. I had an opportunity to play in the NFL, though, because I was such a great athlete. The Oakland Raiders promised me. And ironically, my great uncle, Jack Tatum, the Oakland Raiders were going to draft me to play on that same team. So I decided, but I had been getting bad news the whole time, right? Because I didn't play much in college. I had gotten injured. I was in the doghouse. My coaches hated me. I didn't transfer after I graduated because I just knew, I was like, I trust God, man. I'm gonna come out of this. They're gonna be forced to play me. I was the most athletic person on the entire team when I played. It just was weird the way they treated me. But Oakland Raiders came to my agent, said, hey, we're going to draft Brandon in the 6th or the 7th round on the second day of the draft. I had a draft party, everything, man. And they passed on me. And I was devastated. And I remember walking outside after it happened. I ripped my shirt off. I was in the front yard just crying like a baby, man. I had felt like God let me down. I felt like I let my family down. It was just a very hurtful moment because all I knew it was in my life was football. I had never not played football. I never not had aspirations to play in the NFL. But what I will say is that I learned a valuable lesson that God is in control. And what I thought I wanted, I really, in the end, I didn't want it, right? I thought I wanted to play in the NFL. And I look back and like, man, I don't want to get concussions and torn ACLs. Why would I do that when now I have more influence than I would if I had played in the NFL? And I'll be honest, financially, I make more money than I would if I played in the NFL, generally speaking. If I was Tom Brady, I wouldn't, but
Right.
like the league minimum, I bring in way more than the league minimum. And so God had a plan for me. And what I would tell young people is that when what you believe, if you believe in God and you trust God, if what you pray for don't come to fruition, it wasn't because God said no to you. It's because God said, I got something better for you, because you can't see down the road. I only saw right then football, football, football. Now I see that, no, God had a purpose for me going to University of Arizona because I needed to know him. I needed to be saved. Then God had a purpose for me playing college football and for those things not to happen because he needed me to be a police officer, because being a police officer changed my life. The way I perceive politics, the way I perceive life, service, the way I love my country, all of those things changed in me when I became a cop. But I needed to be a cop in order to be able to speak on behalf of law enforcement to the world. And so God had this brilliant plan that now I'm starting to see. But if I had just trusted it the whole time, I would have understood back then. Instead of ripping my shirt off, I would have understood that, you know what, there must be something better for me. Even now, I look at the position I'm in. I look at how many people I reach. I literally don't go anywhere without people recognizing me. People that I work with, the cleaning company, one of the guys was doing something, a hiring company that we were going to work with, their CEO knows me. The guy at the gym, I can't go anywhere without people recognizing me, but it's a blessing because that's all I really wanted. Was I wanted to be able to influence people in the right direction. That's the prayer I prayed to God a long time ago. I thought that was NFL, but God said, look, I got something better for you. You're going to understand the truth. You're not going to be lied to and think that the world is against you and that just because you're Black, you can't make it in life. I got to get you out of that before I provide you success. Because if you still have that mentality and I give you success, you're going to fail. Anyway, I could talk, I'm a radio show host and I talk for 3 hours a day. So I'm going to try to stop. I could talk forever about it.
Be you. We try to make it, and hopefully one day we can get you in here. We try to make it like just 3 guys sitting around having a conversation, and I found, and we've all found, that that's how you get the best. Not like blah, 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 blah. Everybody just be themselves, and you're making some great points. Great points. You want to say something?
Yeah, playing football, both my teenager and my youngest son play football at a young age. There's risks that come with the sport, right? Like any sport, you can get hurt, severely hurt. Do you feel that football particularly takes the brunt of a lot of stuff? I know concussions are real, and I'm not saying they're not, but, it just feels like football is always attacked, like don't play football. It's not a good sport. Your kid's going to get hurt, concussions. What do you feel about that?
Well, I think it's 2-tier, right? I think it's 2 tiers to it. I think one, that it is legitimate, that your kids will get hurt. The severity of injury is not as prevalent as they make it seem like. Most people don't tear the MCL and never can play again, right? Then we wouldn't have an NFL. So your kid is going to get hurt at some point. Serious injury is different. Hurt and injury is 2 different things. You can play while you're hurt, but if you're injured, you have to sit out and things like that. So it's not as prevalent as they make it seem like. However, I will say that there's an attack on masculinity by people in our country. Football is a man's sport, man. You got to strap it up and you are attacking every day you put them pads on, and you're going to get hurt. You're going to try to, not necessarily try to hurt somebody in a malicious way, but bro, you when I was playing, you come across the middle, you're going to go to sleep. So that was my job. They may well put a pillow out there. You come across the middle, B. Tatum going to lay you down.
My man.
But that's like a manly sport that just in America, in this feminist society, in this woke society, they don't want your boy to be a warrior. They want him to be a pansy. And so I think
want your
that there's
boy to be a
attacks in
lawyer.
that way that are illegitimate. But I think there's a real concern. And I'm going to be honest with everybody that's watching this. I don't want my son to play football. I want my son to play baseball. And the reason why is because the chances of you getting seriously injured in football and the chances of you getting hurt all the time is there, man. When I was playing football, man, my hands were damaged, you know, especially if you're a wide receiver, man, your fingers get all jammed up. You got to go out there and lay the wood, man. So you're gonna feel it. You're gonna get hurt. You're gonna have contusions. You're gonna do all that. Is it worth it? If that's your passion, yeah, I think it is. But me as a parent, I'm like, bro, you make way more money playing baseball, less injury, guaranteed contracts. So if you're going to put all your effort into something, I want you to get paid. And my son don't understand that, but that's why daddy's here. I know you can get paid way more money playing baseball. Secure. I know some of my baseball friends, $90 million contracts, guarantee money. And I go watch the game and homeboy ain't doing nothing. You know what I'm saying? No. He out in the outfield. He may catch the ball twice. He go at the bat. He missed 3 out of 4 times, and that dude make $90 million a year, you know? So
his biggest problem is them damn seats.
And of course, I'm not. What did you say?
I said they're getting $120 million contracts from 3 years, and the biggest problem is not having enough seeds to spit. What are those seeds? Sunflower seeds.
Well, and the other thing too, Brandon, my opinion is, local school districts, right? They got a budget every year, and it seems like me and my buddy just had this conversation. More and more do they keep cutting the budget for sports and the arts. And whatever they're doing with that money, I don't know what they're doing with it. But in my personal opinion, I think every kid should have to at least play one team sport. It doesn't have to be football. It could be basketball. It could be baseball. It could be hockey. It could be whatever. But it teaches you how to work with people of different backgrounds, ethnicities, all that type of stuff, work together for the common goal. And that's another way to change society. And they just keep taking money away from sports and taking money away from the arts. Why?
Because they want your little boys to be little girls. That's what they want. In my opinion, they want boys to be soft. They want everybody to be equal. They don't believe that men should work harder. They don't believe in team sport and people being challenged. I think male or female, everybody should be in a sport, because sport teach you so much about life, teach you how to handle adversity, teach you how to work hard, teach you how to be a team player. You know, all of those things. A lot of the people that I hire, they have a sports background. I mean, they're go-getters, man. They know how to perform. They know how to have an objective to go after, and they know how to work well with a team. I mean, and I'm not saying people that don't play sports don't have some intangibles, because remember, they used to have the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts. They used to have other programs that teach you those skills, and now they don't want to. I think for sure every single school should have physical education. Not only should you be working out at school, you should be doing pull-ups, you should be running, you should be every day. The kids have to dress out. I remember when I was in elementary, we used to have to dress out. And then we used to have to go out there and run. I hated them little shorts because I didn't want to wear them little bitty shorts. But we used to have to go run a lap at least once a day and do pull-ups and push-ups. And then they would teach us about physical fitness and the benefit of having a healthy lifestyle. Nowadays, kids sit up there eating Takis, sitting on the curb, because the kid fat as I don't know what, eating stuff sitting on the curb because they mom and them don't want them to be running there in PE because they'll get winded. That's just not the way our society works. You know, I had a statistical thing here my producer sent to me, and he had made mention about, or at least in the article, it talks about how people are going to die from obesity by 2035. It's going to be like 30% more people die. We need to stop being pansies, man. Put them kids out there making work. I'll say this too. You either have to be, because I think they should have like a scout program associated with the school, or like a feeder program that if you're not playing sports, you need to be in Boys and Girl Scouts type of a thing. And I believe this, and I don't know what for women, because I'm not a woman. Every senior in high school need to go through a boot camp to graduate high school.
100%.
You have to go through a boot camp. That means they're going to put you to the test. They're going to challenge you. You're going to have to learn how to handle your fears, adversity. Now, I don't want them to haze you, but you need to go through a boot camp and say, okay, you've gotten the challenge. Now go off and go to college, because now you can understand how to not take things personal, right? When your teacher's yelling at you and people are hard on you, you don't have to take it personal. You know how to navigate that. You already faced it in a little boot camp scenario. you know you can do it. Your fears, you know you can push past it. I think that they should run men through that. And I think that's the better solution than to force everybody to fight in a war, because I want to say every man should serve in the military at some point. But, to a certain degree, I think that's a little bit extreme, because everybody can't go fight, and somebody got to stay in the homeland and do other stuff and build computers. But I think people need to have that challenge. If they're not playing sports, they need to be challenged. They need to have some man juice, man. You can't just walk around being soft all day. And this whole bully culture, like,
this bully
when
thing.
I was growing up,
this bully.
Bullies were like,
what?
There was kids that bullied you.
And after school, what'd you do? You handled it. And then maybe you got beat. Well, I don't know if this is the wrong thing to say, but if somebody bullied you after school, you handled it. And as long as I came home, my grandpa would say, well, let's go take a look at the other kid. Who got beat worse, but you handled it. And it made me tough. And like you said about the boot camp, like, if you're not going to be in a sport, even if you just did it for 3 months, not only would it give you that structure, it would also teach you respect.
Yeah. Yes.
I think that's what kids miss the most. Not all kids, but kids strive for structure. No matter what anybody says, they actually want structure. And they don't have it. And unfortunately, some don't have it because of family issues, but they want that structure. They want some guy to yell at them and tell them what they're doing wrong, because they don't get it at home, and they want it, as weird as that sounds. And it's just sad that these kids, I really do feel bad for the kids, because it's not their fault. They didn't ask to be raised in a certain situation. They didn't ask to be brought up that way. And we're not giving them a chance.
And what feels better when you're down, you're a little bit tired. Let's go. You get that last win because everybody's looking. Let's go. Well,
and
now I guess that's bullying.
One other quick thing, Brandon. Like you talked about, the bullying aspect and things like that. We sometimes give in, I think, as a society, and try to cuddle, and listen, I take my headphones off here. I was born with big ears, right? So I got picked on as a kid because I had big ears. They used to call me Dumbo, flick my ears, all that good stuff. But yeah, it sucked as a little kid, man. I'd go home crying sometimes, and my mom and my dad would say, "Who cares what those other kids say?" And it's like, well, I'm getting picked on every day, Mom. They're flicking my ears. And then as I got older, I was like, you know what? I'm going to play football. I'm going to start working out. And those same kids that made fun of me didn't make fun of me anymore because that was it. But that's what we need to teach our kids. Not, it's okay. Oh, let me cuddle you. Let me do this. No. Guess what? You're going to grow up. You're going to get bigger than these kids. And then you're going to be the one to go back to them and say, remember that time you picked on me, motherfucker? Remember that time?
Yeah. Right. It's not what people do necessarily or what they say. It's how you respond to it. And so I think that if a kid was bullying my son, I would think that that would be a good time for him to learn how to deal with his issues, brother. Because when you get out in the real world, nobody's going to kiss your butt when you're getting bullied at your job. You got to either learn how to speak up for yourself, or you got to learn how to deal with what somebody's saying. People made fun of me, man. I had ears. They used to call me Curious George, Dumbo, all kind of stuff. And I had skinny legs, man. They called me turkey legs, chicken legs. And I hated my legs, man. I didn't even wear shorts when I was younger because I hated my legs. But my grandma used to always tell me, she said, boy, and my grandma had hairy legs. She didn't even shave her legs. She don't even care. She said, boy, at least you got legs. She said, look at these legs. My legs skinny and they're hairy. And I don't care what people think about me. At least you got legs. Now, if you didn't have legs and you were in a wheelchair, would you want them skinny legs or not? And I'd be like, all right, grandma, you got a point. Because I may think they're skinny, but at least I got legs, man. I wouldn't want to not have legs. And also my skinny legs make me more athletic than the other guys with big legs. I'll get a full scholarship with these skinny legs, and y'all don't. Them fat legs ain't getting you nowhere. So, but I felt like my grandma wouldn't come coddle me and be like, oh, baby, they're talking about your school. I'm going to go talk to them. My grandma like, boy, sticks and stones will break your bones, but words will never hurt you. Go back to school. Quit playing. Quit worrying about them kids. They ain't nobody.
Yep.
As long as you care about this, then don't worry about what other people think about you. They don't raise you. They not God. They messed up too. And so I think we should teach our children how to handle it instead of trying to rescue them.
Yeah.
Teach them how to fish instead of getting the fish for them. Like, because these things translate. Now when people talk about me online, I'm like, I remember my grandma said, I don't give a what y'all not feeding me.
Yeah.
Y'all not take care of my family. I don't care what y'all think.
My grandma was the
And
same
I don't know
way.
what you think if I don't read the comments. You know what I'm saying? So
Grandma's always had the best advice. And one thing with my grandma, man, if I didn't finish that plate, she'd say, somebody work for that, boy. You're going to finish that plate before you get off the table. I'm like a fool. Somebody's working for that. And man, and she was a little lady, but I'll tell you what, you didn't want to get her upset. And I finished the plate. Now, being, into football, when you saw these guys kneeling, what did you think of that? And they let it go for however long. I couldn't believe it. They wouldn't be getting that $100 million contract without, that flag that's there, that $100 million endorsement that they're getting, however much they're getting a year. They're not getting that without that. And then they're going to kneel and then show it to the youth kids that are 10, 12, and their idol is whoever, and they're kneeling. Now you got kids 10, 12, 13 doing it.
Right. I mean, I was ticked off, man. And that's where my career kind of started in the political realm, because I made a video about Colin Kaepernick and it went mega viral. I was fed up, man, because two things. I love my country. I served, my community with my life. And so I have a level of respect for sacrifice and what it means. And so that flag means a lot more to me than just a cloth. And the people who fought for that flag are a variety of different people, black, white. I mean, we all fought to get to this point, died, shed blood, had to sacrifice things to get to this point. And that flag represent unity, represent progress. And to disrespect that flag is to disrespect all the men and women who died to uphold freedom in that flag. So that made me mad alone. Just anybody disrespecting a flag. I even hate when people do stolen valor. Like, I want to beat those people up, running around faking like they served in the military and doing all that. Like, that's so disrespectful. But the other thing is being a former football player. And it's like, we get to play a sport and we lose games. We just go and play another game. The men and women that wear the uniform, when they lose, they don't come back. And we should be appreciative that this is just a game. Let's honor what they've done. This is a game. And I guess a third thing that made me mad was that it's all bull crap. They're kneeling because of police brutality. What are y'all even talking about? Black people kill black people way more than cops would ever think of. How about y'all kneel for black on black violence? How about you kneel for inner city violence and gangs? How about you take a knee for the education system where kids ain't learning nothing in the inner city? Well, how about you take a knee for that? The drive-by shootings that kids get struck in the head 24 hours a day. I'm exaggerating on that point, but every time I look, at least once a month, there's kids getting shot with stray bullets in the inner city in just Chicago alone. Mm-hmm. So how about you take a knee for that? Y'all taking a knee for stuff that's not even real. Hands up, don't shoot never happened. Michael Brown didn't have his hands up like that. And people are still fighting for that. And I forget what Colin Kaepernick was kneeling for. I don't know if it was George Floyd or somebody. I don't know who he was kneeling for, but
which time?
Yeah, it must not have been George Floyd. Who was it?
I don't know. He changes all the time.
I forget.
It's a new reason every time.
I forget who he's kneeling for.
Yeah, every time he does.
They just make up a reason.
Yeah, they make up a reason, so he's back on the spotlight for whatever. And speaking of,
and you know what he's doing? It's a money grab.
Yeah. That
man went and worked for Nike and made millions of dollars. If you really worried about black, why don't you go work for a black company? But they don't care. They go work for Nike, owned by a white man, get paid millions of dollars. And where's Colin Kaepernick? That fool ain't on TV. He don't have a podcast. He not doing any activism. He not doing nothing with the NFL. Man, he took his money with that woke stuff, and he living his best life. And nothing has changed.
And never thinking about what kind of effect that had on kids that were looking up to him. And then he was wearing the Cuban dictator shirt. Yeah, remember the Cuban dictator shirt? What in the hell?
Fidel Castro.
What?
He was wearing a Fidel Castro shirt, and he had pig socks on. And they're just ignorant. These people are ignorant.
Nuts.
It's fun. I don't know. I can go down a rabbit hole with this, but these people are ignorant, and then they pushing this whole agenda. Our whole country was in a frenzy over Black Lives Matter, and it's all a farce. The people at Black Lives Matter don't care nothing about black people. They used it as a money grab. That Patrice Cullors, one of the head people, she buying mansions in white neighborhoods, spending millions of dollars of these people donated money in order to enrich themselves. They didn't give no money to George Floyd's family. They gave no money to Michael Brown's family. They gave no money to Breonna Taylor, Rashard Brooks. They were fundraising on these people, but they gave them no money.
And where
did the money go?
And nobody says anything about it, but they're living in $20 million houses. They're not making $20 million. I mean, things like that just, my head pops off. Now, when what made
and then what are they on to the next subject now,
When the football was over, what made you want to be a police officer? Like, what was it that sparked that you said, okay, this is the path I'm going to go, and in Arizona, right?
Yeah. To be honest, I never even thought about being a police officer. I needed a job, so because my son was almost born at that time, and I said, you know what? I can't keep chasing this football dream, man. It's not yielding anything. And one of my mentors had told me that. I mean, he was a mentor by accident. It's not like he sought me out the mentor, but it was a very wealthy guy. Had a couple conversations with him, and he gave me some really good advice. But he had said when the needle's not moving forward, man, you got to transition. You got to do something else. You got to put an X on the calendar. If it doesn't occur by this time, I need to do something else. And so it kind of got to that time in football, and I applied for everything in the city of Tucson, and the police just having to call me back. And then I thought about it. I said, well, I don't know nothing about policing. And I wrote this in my book, but I had got arrested when I was 8 for smoking marijuana in a vacant house. So my first interaction with police when I was 8 was a negative one. And so I really didn't know much about policing, but I said, hey, I got to find out because they got good benefits, they got good pay. And I did a ride along, and that changed everything for me. I did a ride along with Officer Sean Payne, and Sean just blew my mind, man. White guy. He was cool enough to give me a ride along. And the stuff that we saw on that police during that police shift, it blew my socks off, man. I could not believe it. And I remember asking Sean, hey, how often do you do this? Like, is this an everyday thing that you got to go license sirens to a suicidal person, which was one of our calls? He like laughed at me like, bro, I do this every day. Like, this ain't even a real serious thing. Like, this is nothing to me. And I saw it on him, man. Like, I was in shock. My heart was racing just from driving over there. Not even the kid that was committing suicide or cutting his wrist. And he get back in the car like nothing happened, man. He's like, hey, man, what were you saying about your mom? And I'm like, wait a minute, man. Like, dude, I'm flustered right now. Like, that was crazy. And to see that man be able to perform and do all that and just be not phased, it made me feel like he was a hero, man. And I saw Sean as a hero, and I said, man, I want to be a hero like Sean, man. I want to be that guy. And I joined the police department, and it was the best decision I ever made.
I was in Arizona once. I was a big Kobe Bryant fan, and they were playing Phoenix. Yeah. So I had flown out there, and it seemed like the most peaceful place on the planet. I got up at like 7 o'clock, walked down for coffee. There was nobody there. It was so peaceful. Now you hear about Arizona because of the border and all that. But when you were there, what are some things that we never hear about Arizona that are going on that, like I said, to me, I tell people, Arizona, that's the most peaceful place on the planet. What's going on there that doesn't make the headlines? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, just like at least Tucson, just like any liberal city around the country, it's a hellhole, man. I mean, the homeless, the drug addiction, and all those things are out of control in Tucson. I remember when I was a football player, I thought Tucson was like safe, you know what I mean? Because I was just on campus, I was isolated. When I became a cop, I was like, oh my God, I can't even believe I would walk down that street. Because when I was a cop, I arrested 6 people down the street. Oh, somebody got shot and killed right here. So the city was crazy dangerous, man. I mean, the drug epidemic, people are not talking about it. We're a border state. And Tucson is the first major city coming from the southern border. I remember when we first started, heroin overdose, and now it was fentanyl. But like the heroin overdose used to be like once a month you would hear about an OD. Man, 3 years on the police department, maybe 2014, 15 or so, man, people were ODing every day, like 5 or 6 people a day ODing. It was such a crazy environment that every police officer had Narcan. They issued us all Narcan because we were encountering these people who were ODing, and the Narcan will bring them back to life. You put it in their nose, you shoot it up, and it'll kind of reverse the effects of heroin. And then fentanyl came out.
Oof.
And fentanyl was so dangerous that we couldn't even test drugs anymore. Like we used to be able to test drugs. We'll take it to the lab at the headquarters. I mean, at the substation, and then we'll just do the little thing and flick it, and then we'll say, okay, there's drug. We couldn't even handle drugs without wearing a full hazmat suit with a mask on and gloves, because fentanyl, they would lace these drugs with fentanyl, and you inhale it, you'll pass out and die. You get it on your skin, it'll seep through your skin and your bloodstream, and you will die. I mean, you just need this much of it, and you will die. And so that's how bad it was, and people weren't really talking about it. But man, people were dropping dead every day from fentanyl.
Never heard any of that in Arizona.
And even the mental illness, the mental illness in Arizona is bad too. I mean, they had a good facility where you could take people to the mental illness facility and they'll check on them. But it's like the combination of drugs and mental health. I mean, suicidal calls. We took suicidal calls like multiple a day. Not many people actually went through with it, but people are struggling so much that they are attempting suicide. They have suicide ideations. They are blowing up on their family members and cutting their necks and bleeding out in the street and on Spice. And I mean, it was crazy in Tucson. But the public don't know that because they're asleep.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Did you ever know that about Arizona? See, you never hear about that in Arizona. That's why I asked you, because I thought it was the most peaceful place on the planet.
Well, Phoenix is worse. I mean, Phoenix is even worse, because what they would do is they would run these drugs through Tucson, a little bit in Tucson, but they would really want to get it to Phoenix. Mm-hmm. So they would run drugs through Tucson to Phoenix, and there you go, man. You're talking about some of the biggest crime, and we had so many MS-13 gang members in Tucson. Oh, like, I mean, they would literally run certain communities. It was pretty bad, man. I'll tell you this story. It never got reported because I didn't know what to do. Like, I was a cop working off duty, and off duty means that people can hire you kind of to work in uniform outside of your duty hours. So I'm working off duty at this thing, and this lady comes up to me. It's a family. They drive up in the car and they pull up next to me in my patrol car. We're doing like some night shift, and I'm like looking on my phone the whole time. It's like a cake job. You just got to be there in case something happens. This lady pulls up on us, man. She gets out the car. She's in full throttle panic. Some people are trying to kill me. Oh my God, people are after us. And you know, me and my guys like, lady, if you don't leave us alone, man, what do you got? And she's literally panicked, right? So we like, okay, just park right here. I mean, we'll be fine. And they're saying these people are after us. These people are after us. A car full of Hispanic people, like the mama, the daddy, and like 5 kids, and pal in this one car. And dude, we're in a parking lot. Nobody's in the parking lot. This is like we were there for like Halloween night to make sure nobody vandalized. Nobody's in the parking lot. This truck drives, and you got to think all of the lanes that you can park on. We're like in one random lane, and this guy drives through the parking lot. He turns down the lane where we're at. He could have turned anywhere in the parking lot. It made no sense for him to come down his lane. He could have went to the end and went out the parking lot. He comes, older guy in the truck. He drives by. He looks at us, and he keeps going. And this lady, they were panicking because I think that dude must have been the eye for the cartel. Like, they're right here. So we had another call because we're still not taking them serious that much. We had another part where somebody was going somewhere. We drove. They followed us in their car while we drive to the back of the building. They following us. They're that scared. And then they go to the McDonald's eventually because they had somebody that came and pick them up. This guy pulls up in a big lifted truck. He gets all these kids and the parents out of the car. He pulls them. He shelters them, right? He's covering them and running, and puts them in this truck, and they drive off. Wow. And bro, I was like, what just happened right now? But what I deduced from this situation was that this was probably a cartel thing. And they had owned a little burrito stand, and they probably was laundering money out of that burrito stand, and they messed over somebody in the cartel, and they were really after them to kill them. And to the point where they ended up getting rescued right in front of us, and we didn't even have nobody's name or nothing. And, but that's how much that stuff happened in Phoenix, man. Like, in Arizona, like, it's a real thing. Like, it's real cartel violence. It's real drug trafficking, sex trafficking, human trafficking. That stuff is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And that was then.
A lot of illegal people are there too, committing a lot of crimes, and we can't catch them because we don't have no ID. We don't even know who they are. They have no fingerprints. We go dust. It don't matter because these people don't even exist. So, and then people get raped all the time. And the Hispanic people just get taken advantage of, man. They get raped, they get assaulted, and they won't call the police because they don't want to get deported. So, and then some of them can't speak English. So it's bad, man, what's happening, and we could fix it, but people don't, our politicians don't want to.
That's a quadruple-edged sword there. No matter how you look at it, it's a double-edged sword. This podcast is brought to you by Monster Energy. Tear into a can of the meanest energy drink on the planet, Monster Energy. It's the ideal combo of the right ingredients in the right proportion to deliver a big bad buzz that only Monster can. Monster packs a powerful punch, has a smooth, easy drinking flavor. Athletes, musicians, co-eds, road warriors, metalheads, geeks, hipsters, and bikers dig it. You will too. Monster Energy is more than just the green OG. Monster has Monster Ultra, Juice Monster, Monster Hydro, Rehab Monster, Dragon Tea, Monster Max, Muscle Monster, and many more. Buy on Amazon, buy on Walmart, or go to monsterenergy.com and believe me, you'll find a place. Unleash the beast. Monster Energy. And now with the border open where people were just walking in, it was bad then when you were there. Imagine now.
Oh, yeah.
I never
nowhere
understood.
Near the border was nowhere near where it's at now.
I never understood the fentanyl because you would think as a drug dealer you wouldn't want to kill your customers. But I guess they see greed in it because it's cheaper. But I don't get it. I mean, here in Florida, they're putting it in Xanax. They're putting it in marijuana. They're putting it in Coke. I thought it was a downer. Why in the hell would you put it in Coke? It's just amazing to me that they would even want to put that in there. But I guess greed,
because
right?
it gives you it gives you a crazy, when you do a downer and an upper at the same time, it must be even crazier because they got a thing that they do is called a speedball. I think this is a speedball, and they put a little crack in there. They put heroin in there. They put fentanyl in there. I think they put meth in there. They put they concoct all this stuff, and you hit that speedball and you rolling, bro. You rolling. And if you do it too much, you die. But you rolling if you ain't dying. But what happens is they make the drugs more potent, right? So you can you sprinkle a little fentanyl in some weed, and then you got some fire, and you only need this much. But they're not a pharmacy, right? So it's not like the dude is like weighing it,
yeah,
and like this much will kill you. So let's make sure we have a protocol, and then we'll give it to this guy to weigh it and verify that this won't kill you.
Right.
Man, they break it, they pinching it off and dropping it in there, man. And then somebody ain't paying attention, they smoke all that and they dead.
Brandon, and I'm sure
dude, I think it's way worse than what people think.
I'm sure that was third-party tested, and I'm sure they ordered a professional scale from Vanguard, right? To make sure it's accurate. Nuts.
And they got insurance on it. In case you die, they have insurance for you.
Right. And the health inspectors came in and made sure everything was right. It's unbelievable. Now, you made
make sure it was pure fentanyl, too, right? Make sure it was pure. Because now they got fentanyl that ain't pure. They got fentanyl that got, stuff in it. And, and then they got different levels of fentanyl. Some of it's more pure than others, and they don't know. They just getting it and cutting it and putting it in there. And I mean, people are dying immediately. Like it's not even like it's scary, man. People are just dying. Like, I had a friend that died recently. We played football together. He died in a hotel room. So I know what happened, right?
Sorry to hear that.
And, of course, people are like, oh, that's so sad he died. No, I'm guarantee you he got some drugs, and it probably was fentanyl, and he was a young 30-year-old guy, and it'll smoke you, bro. That one hit, you're gone. And so many young people have died from that fentanyl stuff that, I don't know why it's not bigger of a bigger deal in our country from our government to like keep that stuff out of our country and monitor it. But they don't care, man. They worry about white supremacy or something they made up.
Yeah, something yesterday. That means nothing. I had asked a recovering heroin addict, I said, why do these people want it? And he said to me, they want the fentanyl because it's a better high. And I said, it's Russian roulette. And he said, they want it. They request it. And I said, wow. All right, then. I guess that's the answer. Crazy. Now,
I mean, just like other drugs. Like I never understood why people use drugs, right? I mean, I see the crackheads running around the community. I'm like, why would anybody try that for the first time? You're going to turn into a zombie. And you always think, you're like, dang, is it that good? I mean, these people back there just hitting that crack and they just, I need it. I got to have it. Dude snorting coke and LSD, Kate Spice, meth. I mean, these people doing meth, you know how they concoct that stuff like a little mini laboratory, all them chemicals and they smoking that meth. And you're like, bruh, like how did you start? Because all these people are zombies, man. They itching and they got sores on their face and they used to be beautiful supermodels and now they're hideous, man. Like, what would make the person hit it for the first time? That's my question. Like, I would be like, I'm surely gonna die if I smoke meth. I mean, I'm gonna get hooked movie? And I'm gonna die.
Maybe The Wolf of Wall Street. Maybe that movie when he hit Jonah Hill. I used to have a bunch of I had beer and then a vape store, and this is when it first came out. It was called Kratom, and I had this blue packet. No, it was yellow packet and green packet, and I had to stop selling it. And man, there would be a line out the door at 9 a.m. for this stuff. It looked like a methadone clinic, and I was trying to be higher end beer and everything, and it was cheap, so I had it with like the vapor stuff when that was popular, and literally, Brandon, there was a line waiting for me to unlock the door over this kratom because they were going through withdrawal just like heroin. And you can still buy it today. You can still buy it. I can't believe it. Whenever I see it, I cringe because it made my place look like a, I can't even, man, people were like, Tom, what are you doing over there? Nothing. It's just whatever this shit is. I don't know, But like things like that we should be focusing on, I think, rather than, are you a woman or a male? Well, Yeah. Now you made a viral video when you went to the Trump rally, right?
Yeah, that was the first video I ever made.
Really? Oh, that was the very first one?
I was still.
Oh, okay, good.
First video. I wasn't into making videos. Like I wasn't even a social media person. I just so happened to. I would just type little scriptures on my page or whatever, but I didn't feel like typing all the stuff that I was wanting to say. So I said, let me just put it in a video and post it out there so people can kind of get what I'm trying to say in my experience. Cause it was crazy what my experiences were. And that thing went viral, man. And it was crazy. And then I started thinking like, well, maybe people want to hear my opinions. I don't give them cause I don't feel like writing them. But that was kind of my first video that I made and it went viral.
And that led to more that you're doing today. What attracted you to Donald Trump? What did you like about him? What was the attraction? Other than, everybody was whether you liked the man or not, everybody on the planet was home at 6 o'clock if he was doing a rally.
Right.
Everybody was home.
I'll say this. It wasn't really Trump. I mean, so when Trump first of all, I voted for Barack Obama. I thought I was a liberal. I thought I was a Democrat. Then I woke up to it and said, man, the Democrat Party ain't doing nothing for black people. And I don't even know why I support them. They share none of my values. I think I've been tricked this whole time. So I started looking at Republicans and I'm like, oh, Republicans are exactly, but I believe a lot of stuff that I believe is in the Republican side. Donald Trump ran and I didn't take him serious, but everybody knew he was a billionaire, Donald Trump, and he was just cool. WWE is a celebrity. And so I never thought about him being a legit candidate. And then Ben Carson, whom I wanted to be the president, he dropped out and endorsed Trump. And I said, Ben Carson is a brilliant man. There's no way that there's got to be something to this for him to put his name behind Donald Trump, who's a celebrity. He's not even really going to win.
He's the only guy on the planet that separated two brains. He's the only guy on the planet that went in and there was two kids and he separated them and their brains were together. I mean, that guy's you talk about Elon. No, he's a rocket science, that guy. So if he's backing somebody, he's not back, he's thinking that through.
Well, he has a great reputation, right? I mean, he's the only, like you say, he's the first person to separate conjoined twins at the head in the world, so his reputation precedes this presidential stuff. So when he endorsed Trump, I said, man, maybe let me rule out Trump, right? Let me go to this rally. It's in Tucson, and I'm just going to see if this guy's a racist like they say he is or whatever the case may be, because I need to figure out, is he a real candidate or I need to vote for Ted Cruz or somebody. I knew none of these guys because I was never a Republican. But then I went to his rally and I was like, wait a minute, everybody in here cool? this feel like America, man. Everybody's patriotic and everything. And then he gets on the stage and he's funny and he's like talking about the border and lowering taxes. And it was a great time. And I said, "What? Wait a minute. I agree with everything." He wasn't afraid to say, "Man, they full of crap. They full of crap. They stealing your money. The government is wrong." And I'm just like, dude, this dude is keeping it 100.
100.
And after the thing, I said, you know what? Let me just tell people what I heard, because everybody thought he was a racist, right? I mean, it was kind of like, he's a racist. He hate Mexicans. I mean, I don't even know if it was that time when he hated Mexicans, but they were throwing black people out of his events, quote unquote. And so after I went, I was like, oh man, this is like they lying to us, man. Like, these people are staging protests at the event, and since he bought the events, he can kick people out of it because he paid for it with his own money. It's a private event technically, and so I'm like, these people are staging. That's why they're getting kicked out. It's not like the white people are heckling blacks and then they kicking them out because the black people are standing up for themselves. Man, these people are staging fake outrage. I saw it with my own eyes. So anyway, I made the video that went viral, and then from that point on, I've been a Trump supporter ever since.
Yeah, and you know, I know one of the things you do is try to talk to African Americans, and kind of get them out of that web of the Democrat. And this is my opinion, and I like to hear yours. I think a lot of it with that is, here's a check, here's money, here's welfare. But if you look at what Trump did, and whether you're for Trump or not, you can't deny the facts. And I have this is just me, 7 friends from Philly. When they were 17, 18, they were selling crack, you know, on the side of the road. They were playing football, but they were doing it. They had a baby when they were you know, they had kids, but they were good guys. And they got 15, 20 years for that. You know, that whatever the ratio, the 100 to 1, that crazy number. Donald Trump let them out. They called me. He let them out. They were in federal prison, and he got them out. And they were telling me how Trump had let out, just in one federal facility, 57 people. You know, and that's a man who's going and looking at what the charge was, taking that time as president while everybody's trying to kill him, and saying, look, no, you know, let's help this out. And he didn't just let them out. He let them out, and he made them, and part of the deal was to go to a some type of a rehabilitation center. So you couldn't just get out. You went to a halfway house. You had to get a job program, and so on and so forth. And if you could elaborate on what you're doing with the African-American community to get them out of that brainwash that they're in. They don't have to be for Trump. Just, it's pretty clear what the Democrats are doing, in my opinion.
Yeah, 1,000%. You know, Trump got my great uncle out. One of my great uncles, he got sentenced to 40 years federal time for doing for selling drugs. I mean, he was a big time drug dealer. I remember we were little, we would go over his house, and he used to have these things on a oven that was this big, and they looked like cookies. And when I was young, I thought they were big cookies, right? And he's like, don't eat them, they ain't cookies. And I'm like, what? Why is he making these big old... I'm grown now. That was keys of cocaine he was cutting up, and you know, he was a big time drug dealer. He got 40 years, man. Yeah. Federal. Like he was gonna die in there, man, because he was 50 or something when he went in. So he was gonna die in there. And then Donald Trump came, and he out now because Donald Trump did the I forget what it's called now, the First Step Act, which is the recidivism reduction program. And so the First Step Act, if you are qualified, you can murder people, but if you was like drugs or something, you can join the recidivism reduction program, and then you go through that program, and then if you finish the program, they'll let you out on good behavior, and they'll help you with programs after you get out.
But hey, Brandon,
so, you know,
Brandon,
I was
he's a racist though. He's a racist though, remember? He's a racist though, remember?
Yeah, he's a racist. yeah. Biggest racist in the world, helping black people the most. But what I do is try to get to the mind, because you can give people money all you want. You can do all that stuff, man. But if they mind ain't in the same place, they're still in bondage right here, then it's almost pointless, right? If a person has still got bad money management in the mind, they view money a certain way. You give them as much money, they're gonna blow it all. You got to change it here first, and then the physical actions will proceed. But most of what I do is I tell the truth about these situations, expose the lies, and give articulable facts on how to change things. And then, you know, Candace Owens and I started the nonprofit organization called Blexit, which was a play on words, like the black exit, like the British exit, the Brexit. We did Blexit, like the black exit. And it was essentially exiting the ideology. because you don't have to be a Republican. Some of these Republicans are trash too. You know, I don't agree with everything Donald Trump does. So I don't tell a person you have to be a Trump supporter, you have to be a Republican, you have to be a conservative. You just have to have common sense. Do what's best in the best interest of your community. Be informed, but do it in the best interest of your community. But Blexit was our outreach. We're in all 50 states. We have chapters there. We work in the inner cities to try to help communities, like community outreach, back to school drives. We do little events and stuff in many of these cities. And so we just try to do that to give back. So not only promote the rhetoric, but try to go in the community and teach people that you need to be a free thinker. You need to think for yourself. You need to have an account of why you're voting this way or the other way.
And how was the acceptance when you started doing that? Were you accepted when you were going into these communities and, you know, not like you said, not trying to push them to Trump, just maybe give them a different way to look at things? Was there a lot of backlash?
Yeah. A lot of backlash, and a lot of black people don't want to get involved. I'm just keeping it 100. You know, like we would do events, man, and it wouldn't even be that many black people that show up. Some events we would have a lot of black people, but most of them was mostly white people. And it's unfortunate because white people care more about the black people than black people do. Not all the time, but in these particular situations. You go in, and we would do our events in the inner city, and we would have panels with all these great speakers, and like, white people they want to be there. They want to be a part of it. What can we do to change? What can we help? And a lot of black people didn't want to show up, and they don't want to hear it. You know, they don't want to be a part of anything that challenges the status quo. They don't want to hear that you're not a victim. And I'm not saying all. I'm saying that in many of these cases, they don't want to hear that, man. They don't want to hear from Brandon Tatum. Brandon Tatum is a coon. Brandon Tatum is working for the white man. Brandon Tatum married to a white woman. You know, it's the ignorance is very disheartening. And I wish I could tell you that, yeah, man, it was great. We had millions of black people. It's like, nah, man, some communities were better than others. Our community in Philly was good. We had a lot of a good response in Philly. Because we would get people from the hood, and then they would join Blexit, and then they would kind of help out with outreach in their own neighborhood. We had a young lady out in Philly. She was so awesome. She was like auntie. She was gangster, you know, so she could talk to people, and she was real. And like everybody loved her. And she ended up passing away. I don't know if it was for COVID or something else. You know, obviously we couldn't get her medical records, but she passed away. She was Daphne was just amazing, but she was killing it in Philly. South Carolina, we kill it in South Carolina. There's places where we have so much community outreach. We work with the churches and stuff, and we do a lot, but there's a lot of places in Arizona and these other places where it's not a lot of black people, man. Black people ain't showing up. But we just, all we can do is do our best, man. All we can do is get the word out there. I think we make a tremendous impact on social media too, because every day I get black people saying, hey, man, I love what you do, man. I used to hate you, and now I like you, you know. Everywhere I go, black people all over the country come up to me. Hey, B. Tatum, oh, man, I love it. I watch your stuff. There's a kid at the gym just recently, and I looked at his social media. He looked like he an emo or gothic or something. Black kid with, you know, got his fingernails painted. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even never think he was conservative, but he saw me at the gym. He like, Brandon Tatum, man, I love you, man. Everything you know, you give me hope, and so I get a lot of that from black people. But I honestly wish the numbers were like a wave, like millions of black people. I mean, tens of millions are waking up, and you know, but it just unfortunately, that's not really reality.
Well, just like football, persistence. You know, persistence, and congratulations on that. And in Philly, I can't tell you how many aunties I had. And those aunties, you do not want to mess with them. They are straight gangsters. Yeah. And if you don't eat their whatever they cook, boy, man, they tell everybody, and that's it. And then and if you don't go to church, holy crap. You know, those aunties are at church, 7 a.m., how's my hair? They're the best. They're the best. And how did you team up with Candace Owens?
Yeah, it's funny because when me and her started, I mean, this before there was a such thing as like a black conservative, you know, like a popular black conservative. So we had just, you know, kind of had a similar experiences, just kind of leaving the Democrat Party, being like, man, these people do not have our best interests at heart. And so I made those videos that went viral. And at the same time, Candace had started a YouTube channel called Red Pill Black. So she was kind of viral. And me and her were kind of like the first vocal black conservatives that challenged the narrative and had gained popularity on social media. So one day she like hit me up and Twitter and was like, hey, I love your content. we should team up and do some content together. Let's meet up the next time I'm in your city. And I'm like, oh, for sure. And I'll never forget the first time I met Candace. So she gets to Mesa, Arizona, because I'm in Phoenix. She get to Mesa. She got family out here. She said, hey, meet me at the airport at the restaurant. So I'm thinking it's going to be just me and Candace. We're going to chop it up. And if we vibe, we're going to do some conservative content together. I get to the restaurant, man, her whole family there. It's like 8 people. And it was funny because I'm like, dang, I thought it was just me and her. I don't even know her, and I'm at her family at dinner, and it was a blast, man. We were going because this side of the table was conservative, me, Candace, and like one of her cousins was conservative, and then everybody else was liberal, and we were just going at it, man. We shut the restaurant down. We were going so much they had to kick us out because it had closed, and we were still going. And then ever since then, me and Candace been like really good friends. And then in 2018, I think that was like 2017 or so, 2018, we started Blexit, and we just been, she like my sister. So.
All right, Brian. So with all the subscribers that you got so fast, 3 million, 500 million views, what do you think the difference between you and others maybe trying to do the same thing that you were able to do it so quickly?
I think it's consistency and authenticity, right?
Yeah.
I make like, dang, I don't know how to in my throat. I make like 3 videos a day, every day for the last couple of years, so it's that consistency where people kind of see me out there. They see me on social media. I'm always talking about all the topics, and YouTube favors the consistency, right? So they promote your stuff more. And then it's authenticity, man. I just keep it real. I say what I feel like saying. And sometimes people don't like that. Even people that follow me, they'll give me thumbs down on some of those videos, but I'm just keeping it real. And therefore people know they're going to get the real from me. They know what I'm saying is what I really feel, and it's not what I think they want to hear. And then I have a little bit of charisma too. I make it funny. Yeah. I tell jokes. I clown people on there, and I think that people really enjoy that. And because my product isn't like super great. It's not like we have a kind of good camera setup now, but like I used to start with just being in my car, and we don't have a lot of graphics, and I don't have a big team. It's just me and one other person. And people just love that down to earth feel where they feel like that. And then I'm not like super, like, I wouldn't say sound super educated, right? Where somebody's like, they can't even track me because I'm using all these big words and philosophical thoughts and all that. I'm not even doing it. I'm like the everyday person. I don't speak proper English all the time. I say words that don't exist. On my radio show, I tell people, man, I can't read good.
Oh,
so I can't, I laugh at myself. I read some name and I'm like, I can't even read. I have a public school education, so don't blame me. So I just keep it real. I'm just myself. And a lot of people feel like, wow, like I can see myself in that guy. That guy's just down to earth.
I tell my engineer, Rob, I think I got dyslexia ever since I started this. I'll have a doctorate with 2 master's degrees, and his name will be Dr. Milfred. And I'm every single time I mess it up, I'm like, Dr. Mill said there's something crazy, it's just, but it's just the way it goes, and you are you're very just real. You just say how it is, and that's great. I mean, you're fun to talk to. We looked up something. Do you know that roughly 89% of black voters voted for Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election? Now, do you think that that's true, or do you think that's somebody with the numbers that hacked into something and changed those numbers?
No, I think it's true, man. It's real out here when it comes to black support for Democrats and the brainwashing.
That bad.
I mean, I know people in my family that are conservative, but they vote for Democrats. I mean, they're conservative, man. We'll talk and we say, I don't believe in that, man. I don't believe in that, man. I don't fool with people like that. Do you know that's what you're voting for?
They don't even know.
Oh, no, Republicans, man, they racist. It's like,
I've heard that too.
It's bad. It's bad though. It's bad. It's worse than people think. Like in Black America, we have been brainwashed, like legitimately brainwashed over time, to where a lot of black people are stuck, man. They can't see it another way. They believe in this racism stuff. They believe that the country's against them. They believe that because they black, they're gonna get killed by a police officer just driving down the street. I would argue that like 60% of black people actually believe that.
No, they do.
And that's troubling.
They do. They do. Friends of mine do. They do. They believe that. They think when they get pulled over, they're getting treated different. And I said, look, I'm white, and I have more traffic violations than you do times 10.
Yeah.
You know?
I got put over the other day, man, and it's like I was wrong. You know, I was speeding, and I was going to Vegas to the SHOT Show, and I'm going like I got a big old truck with big wheels on it, so the speedometer is off. So it's like 7 miles per hour off or more. And so, but still, I'm going like 85 on my speedometer, but it's like 90 something. Man, I see that cop. I pass him. He started to pull out, bro. I pulled over. He ain't even got to chase me. I already knew what was happening. I just pulled right over. He ain't had to drive no further than where he was at. And I took that ticket with a smile. You know, he didn't arrest me or nothing. He could have, because I was criminally speeding. But, you know, we chopped it up, and I'm like, he kind of felt bad because he ended up figuring out I was a former cop. And I'm like, bro, I deserve this ticket. I'm not finna argue with you about this ticket. And thank you for your service, man. You be safe out there. I ain't arguing with this cop. He doing his job. And I didn't get killed, and I had my firearm on me. I didn't get killed. Nothing happened to me. The guy gave me a lesser ticket. He still gave me the ticket. You know, it's people are just so disingenuous, man. And before that, I hadn't gotten pulled over for 13 years before that, because the last time I got pulled over was in 2010. And, you know, I got a bunch of tickets when I did that, but never got killed, never got beat up. The cop really never harassed me. I was wrong. I had rims on my car, so I was driving around the speed bump because I didn't want to dent my rims. But it still was against the law. And the guy pulled me over, and I said, yep, I ain't arguing, bro. I got my hands on the steering wheel. You need my stuff. My stuff is legit. Take that ticket. I shouldn't have been doing what I was doing. I won't do it again. It's really that simple, to be honest.
And see, just from talking to you, I think you have that attitude because you had a father in the home and the way you were raised. And if you look, and we looked at before, 6 out of 10 African Americans don't have a father at home. If you had the key, what would you do to start to correct that problem? Because I agree with you, what we said earlier. Until that's corrected, I don't see how you can correct the rest. What would you do if you had the wand to start something and get it going?
That would be the first thing that I would do is make sure that I implement God and fathers, and I think everything else will matriculate down to solving itself. People don't believe in God no more. That's why they don't have no morals. That's why men are willing to smash women and leave them with kids and not even take care of their kids, because they have no moral standard. They don't care. Who's telling them that having sex with as many women and having as many baby mamas as you want is a problem? Nobody's telling them it's a problem. So I would do that, have the moral standard back in the Black community, because we used to feel that way. That's why it was only about 20% 20% of Black families where kids were born out of wedlock. It was down to 20-25%. Now it's 70-80%.
Whoa.
That's a complete shift. And so back in the day, we retained God in our consciousness. We knew that education was key component. We knew that family structure would give us the advantage that we needed to be successful in this country. So I would fix those two things, because I wouldn't act up with a cop because my father would whoop me.
Exactly.
You know, I wasn't worried about the police. I was worried about what Mr. Tatum would do if he found out that I was cussing at the police and being disrespectful. And so that's kind of where even my teachers, I'm not going to disrespect my teachers because my father would do something about it. And I didn't want no whoopings. So, and I got a whooping before, you know what I mean? Because I was disrespectful in class, got an N on my report card, which means needs improvement. That wasn't even a U. A U is unacceptable. N is need improvement. And my dad told me up, man. And I never again. I got all E's. So which was excellent back in the day when they.
What do you do to get that back? Like, what do you do to get that back? This episode is brought to you by Fiji. More than just water.
This is not just rock. It's ancient volcanic rock that filters tropical rain, giving it double the electrolytes and its signature soft, smooth taste. It's not just water. It's Fiji water.
Because now it seems everybody runs from the ghetto. Maybe we run to the ghetto and build something in the ghetto, a church, extracurricular activities. Is that what you would do? Like, what are some things that could be done? Like, I understand the thought, but like, what could be done? Because it's so hard with this woke thing, and you can't do this, you can't do that.
It's hard. It's nearly an impossible situation, you know, because the influence of leaders, artists, actors, they have so much more influence over the day-to-day person. You know, even when I was young, my dad was a great man, but no, I thought Tupac was.
Me too.
I thought Tupac was cooler than my dad was. You know, I thought these gangsters were cool. Dudes in the hood that used to sell dope. Yeah, he got the Pac, huh?
It's like plastic cell.
The dudes that used to sell dope.
Yeah.
What you say?
I collect the plastic cells. They make them by hand, and I was a big Tupac fan when I was a kid.
Tupac was. I know all Tupac songs.
Yep.
I used to have a big poster of Tupac in my room, so I was a Tupac fan as well. But the thing is that, you know, let me do two things. Ideally, this is what I think could be successful, and realistically, this is what I think has to be done. Ideally, people like LeBron James, all these NBA players that got so much influence, all these rappers, actors, politicians should be saying, we need family structure. A husband and a wife, go get married. LeBron James should be touting from the rooftop. All of the people that follow me that want to be like me is because I'm married. It's because I have a great wife. So all you young boys, get you a wife. If LeBron said that, I swear, God is my witness. In 10 years, we will see the marriage rate probably go up by 40%. If LeBron James said it, just him.
If he starts
but
playing.
Our leaders
if you start stop sitting out every other game where the Lakers are the worst in the league somehow, he's got to stop sitting out because he's got a sore thumb. But if he would start playing again,
right,
and I agree with you 100%.
That dude is the biggest pansy on the basketball court that I've seen. Although he's one of the greatest athletes, probably one of the greatest basketball players ever. He's not the greatest. I think he's one of them. However, if that man got out and said that, if more popular black leaders will come out and emphasize God and emphasize relationships and get married and stop sleeping with these women, then I think young people will grow up and be like, oh, that's cool to have a wife, instead of being like, it's cool to have a baby mama. It's cool to get all these women and be able to have sex with any woman you want. That's cool. That make you a man. That make you swagged out. Everybody got respect for you. Instead of the gangsters coming out of prison and telling you and rapping about how they laid down and did some time in prison, now they out, and everybody loved the man who went to prison. You get so much street credit. I used to say this. You get more credit in the hood from going to prison than going to college. Nobody throw a party when you come home from college, man. When you go to prison, they got a coming home party. Everybody excited. You the man of the hour.
Yeah.
But if the people that go to prison keep it real and say, bruh, you don't want to go to prison. You know how many dudes getting raped in prison, getting shanked in prison? You know, sleepless nights, sleeping in that little bitty room, your cellie punking you, or maybe you have to throw down with that dude. You have to join gangs. You don't want to go to prison, young man. This ain't cool like they tell you. Man, if they would tell young people that, it'll be a different world. Now I wish that they would do this.
I'm with you on
now,
that.
Tangibly,
LeBron thing, though. If LeBron did that, as much as I don't like him, he is one of the greatest. As much as I don't like him, if he would get up, because he's one of the only players that you never really hear anything bad about him cheating. He stayed with that same wife from high school, has 3-4 kids. If he would get up, I would put money on the table. You're right that the rate would totally change, but for whatever reason he won't.
Because, man, when I was young, and I knew this because I was young, I wanted to be like Michael Jordan. See, Michael Jordan was a really good example, but I don't think he pushed marriage and stuff. Where I never really heard that from him. But I wanted to be just like Mike. That's what changed my life, was that I wanted to be like Michael Jordan. I wanted to play basketball. And then when I got arrested when I was 8 for smoking marijuana in a vacant house, my dad didn't even whoop us. It was me and my brother was there. He didn't even whoop us. He turned around in his van when we were headed home. He said, if you don't act with integrity and do the right thing when nobody's watching, you would never play in the NBA. Like, that hurt me way more than getting a whooping, man. Because I fantasize about playing basketball. I used to play basketball every day in my backyard and dribble the ball, and that meant a lot to me. So if Michael Jordan said, listen, man, you can be whatever you want to be if you apply yourself, that would have been gospel to me. That would be better than what Jesus said.
Me too.
I listen to him. And like Michael Jordan them don't play no more. LeBron James is currently playing. And all of these guys, man, all these guys. And I don't even want to get to old boy that turned his boy into a girl. I forget his name. I did a video about it the other day. That basketball player.
Dwayne Wade.
I forget his name.
Dwayne Wade.
Dwayne Wade. D-Wade. Yeah, I ain't
that?
get
Whoa,
to D-Wade.
Whoa. Time out.
You know,
wait. Time out. I like Dwayne Wade a lot. He did what?
His son is now a girl.
Oh, no.
Wait a minute. You didn't know that Gabrielle Union D-Wade's youngest son is now Zaya? Used to be Zion or something, now Zaya. He's a transgender. They just won an award at the NAACP Image Award for like the most courageous family, and they didn't turn their little boy into a girl, and they call him Zion. D-Wade went and changed his name legally, and now he a girl.
Man, I thought
when they dress him up and they.
Remember when he first came out, his first 2 years in the NBA, I thought that guy he looked like he had a shot at being close to Jordan. Remember how good he was when he first came out, man?
Yeah.
What? I'm sorry. We had in the guy who does all his video. He does all his filming for Dwayne Wade. We had him in. And I cannot believe that man did that. Wow. Great example. That's a great example.
Oh, it's bad. It makes me so mad when I hear him talk. He was on like LeBron James show sitting on a barbershop, and he said he's the worst example of a father that I've ever seen.
They just had him do the All-Star game. They had him do the All-Star game.
Huh?
They had him introduce people at the All-Star game, the NBA All-Star game. Oh, you got it.
Yeah.
Kidding me.
He had said about being a father, like, you just need to let your kids show you how to parent and like let them lead, and then you follow as a parent. Like, what? Bro, you a dad, you a father. See, that woman Gabrielle, in my opinion, I don't know them, but Gabrielle Union wear the pants in that family, man, and I think she didn't make him real weak, because I feel like when D-Wade wasn't with Gabrielle Union, he was a man, he was flourishing. Now he with that woman, I think she crazy, man. Like, you should have heard their speech. I made a video about it. You can look on my YouTube channel. She out there talking about transsexuality, intersexuality, and that the biggest problem is that black trans people and I'm like, what are you even talking about? And D-Wade mentioned how he was proud of Zion because we are now raising her the way she's always supposed to be. And I'm like, bro, that's your little boy. And that boy, I tell people all the time, I don't know why D-Wade and them doing this boy like this. Because that boy is going to grow up and be 6'8", and his shoulder's going to be this big. He going to have a 22 shoe, and ain't no man going to want to be with him, right? Because they ain't no girl that big, you know? So they said, he cute now, right? They put his little dress on, and he little, so they can dress him up. But when he's 6'8", bro, you can't put a dress on at 6'8" with your feet hanging off the heels like this. You ain't gonna be able to be a feminine woman like that. And he don't know that that's his future because his mama and them tricking him. But then when he get up there and he can't have kids and men are rejecting him at the club, he gonna feel like, why my parents let me do this? You know, maybe I shouldn't have been a girl at 10 or whatever, however old that boy is.
Wow. That's wow. That blew my mind there. That one got me. What in the hell are they thinking with this crazy shit?
Have you worked with or spoke with Charles Barkley at all?
No, I like 90% of what Charles say. He live in Phoenix. I saw him at the airport one time, but you know, I wasn't able to stay in contact with him. So I would love to like talk to him one day, but you know, I don't have his contact.
He got on it. He said,
and not somebody being fake.
No, he came on. He said, the dunk contest sucks. It sucks. It's trash until the Sixers guy did a 560. And what did you see him at the dunk contest? Whoa, boy. And tell us about your radio show.
Yeah, I have a syndicated radio show called The Officer Tatum Show from. Well, I don't know I forget what time it is Eastern, but it's from 3 to 6 Pacific Standard. So I don't know what that is Eastern, but yeah, it's every day, 5 days a week. People can call in on the show. It's broadcasted on the radio, you know, in the conservative AM stations around the country. And then also on Salem News Channel is where it's like we kind of have like a news set. So I do it on the radio, but also we broadcast it live on a television as like a news set. So so Salem News Channel is where people can find that. But it's incredible, you know, talking on the radio really has helped me become a better speaker and help me, you know, put my thoughts together, because doing 3 hours every single day, you know, is a lot, you know. So but it's a blessing, and I'm able to reach a lot of people that may not watch social media stuff.
Congratulations, and you're fun to talk to, and you can nail a lot of good subjects and make a lot of good points and still have fun. You know, not the like this type. What would you say to, you know, some of these individuals that maybe not even by choice, they're stuck in that woke and just aren't woken up yet, and you know we need them to wake up quick to get out of this before there is an Armageddon, in my opinion.
I say, man, all your problems are in the mirror. Everything that happened in your life is in the mirror. Look in the mirror first. Look at that man in the mirror. Have an honest conversation with yourself. Am I not succeeding because of somebody else, or because I know I can do better? I know I can show up on time. I know I can work harder. I know I can put in the work. I can read more books. I can be more educated. I can network more. You got to look in the mirror first. And then once you exhausted everything that you know to do as an individual and you have maxed out, I mean, you working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and things are still not happening, and you believing in God, then maybe you can look and say, maybe that's a system that may be broken over here. But you got to look in the mirror, man. And if everybody did that individually and stop want to be an activist over here, and your family falling apart, you want to be an activist, and you're not even disciplined enough to go to work on time every day, you know? So I think that what I would tell anybody is that, man, look, the sum of all of your problems can be handled by looking at that man in the mirror. And when you get him right, physically, mentally, spiritually, you will run the world. And the reason why you'll run the world, because not many people are willing to look that man in the mirror and fix him or fix her. And so the select people that's willing to do that, the world is yours. You are dominating in this society.
And you're great. Again, give all the ways everybody can watch you and get a hold of you.
Yeah, so if you just put The Officer Tatum on any search engine, you'll find all of my stuff. My biggest platform is my YouTube channel. I upload 3 videos a day. Again, the radio show. If you put in theofficertatum.com on my website, you can get everything. Radio show, podcast. Our e-commerce store, which we have a huge e-commerce store where we sell a lot of incredible merch with incredible messages. Like the one I have on now is anti-grooming social club, which is, you know, we're fighting against the grooming, you know, that they're doing to these children in this crazy over-sexualized LGBTQ AARP movement that they got.
CDEFGH.
So we do merch like that so people can have a good message. What do you say?
I said I added some more letters: Z, G, K, B, A, C, D, E. But man, you are great, and you know, hopefully I get to fly you in here and sit down you face to face, because I'm a fan. I'm all for you, and we're gonna have all this in the description and popping up while we're talking. This was great. I really appreciate your time.
Oh man, I appreciate you having me on, man, and I cannot wait to come out there and sit down and have a face-to-face conversation. I think it'll be just as good.
Oh, we'll have a blast, man. We'll have a blast. I'm gonna hold you to that.
Oh, hey, we almost did it, man. We almost came down there, but we couldn't coordinate the travel with that gala event. It just got convoluted, and it was way too expensive. So we couldn't muster it this time. But man, I'm telling you, my wife loves it out there. Yeah. That's where she want to live, to be honest. And I'm like, nah, we got to stay in Arizona. But we will make it a point to come out there, and when we do, we're gonna have a good time.
How about I fly out, and I'll even tell you where not to take her. Believe me, I know. Believe me, I know. I will give you. I'll tell you. I'll give you the long way around certain things.
Good. We need it, man. We need it.
All right, man. You're the man. Hey, I'm all for you. Big fan. Keep going.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you.